Introducing the Paddy Power World Darts Championships.
I know we've got loads of regular viewers and we've got loads of extra people involved as well tonight. So those of you who know what to do, get involved in the chat room as always, especially when we're going to predictions, because we want to hear what you all think. But those of you who aren't regular viewers and aren't generally subscribed to the channel but are watching tonight because it's a bit of a special one, make sure that you are subscribed to the channel, because we have a little rule where you can only contribute to the chat room and give your predictions and opinions and call me a baldy and everything else that people want to do, that if you are subscribed to the channel. So make sure you're subscribed, make sure that you are getting involved in the show, because it's going to be an absolute cracker. Before though we go through the World Darts Championship, the Paddy Power World Darts Championships for 2025, we've got the first of our special guests for the evening, and we're joined by someone who hasn't been with us before at Online Darts, and we're joined by someone you've all seen on the television an awful lot, but maybe haven't heard from a great deal. We've got Mr. Scott Gibbling.
Good evening.
PDC marker. Good evening, Scott. How are you?
Fantastic, thank you.
Fantastic. It's lovely to have you it's lovely to have you in Ilkeston with us this evening.
Absolute pleasure.
Prince of Wales. Now,
no one's ever said that about coming to Ilkeston before.
I love Ilkeston.
I live close to Ilkeston.
Yeah.
And
that's why we're saying
which, spoiler alert, viewers, is why Scott was willing to come and join us tonight, because his taxi was probably cheaper than many other people's. Scott, for those that aren't maybe too familiar with you and what you do and how you got to where you're at the minute, can you just tell us a little bit about, first of all, what your job is? What do you do for the PDC when they see you on the television, and how did that come about? How did you get there?
Yeah, great question. So I'm a tournament official with the Professional Darts Corporation. I've been so since 2005. The very first Premier League night in Stoke, Victoria Hall in Stoke, was my very first tournament I was involved with. How I got here, interesting story, via an ex-professional in Derby, where I live, Mark Robinson, the jam man.
Right.
We were playing a Super League match, and he said, "Are you doing anything next week?" I said, "Oh no, I don't think so." He goes, "I need a lift. I've got a tournament in Nottingham, it's a UK Open qualifier." And he goes, "Your lift's let me down, can you go?" He goes, "All the big boys are there." And it was at this pub in Hyson Green in Nottingham.
Jesus, nice area. That one I know even better than Ilkeston.
Once again, I'm not going to call the area. And he goes, "All the big boys in the pub." He goes, it's a UK Open qualifier. They're all there. So I'm thinking, better put my collared shirt on, a pair of trousers on. Don't want to look a mug, do I? Going in this pub. So I drives in there, goes in. First person I saw, John Lowe.
Wow.
First person in the pub. And then as players started coming in, I'm thinking, wow. So he gets knocked out quite early, even though his name was Mark. He couldn't mark for toffee. And, so he goes, "Couldn't mark my game, could you? I've just lost and losers mark the next match." So yeah, because I have my collared shirt on.
Yeah, you're ready to go.
I could mark it. And it was Bob Anderson and John Pott. and
The worst
done
games to
toss-up.
volunteer for, isn't it?
Absolutely. I didn't volunteer. I was actually told I was going to do it. And did the toss, did the match, and you know, cut a long story short, it became a hobby. So I was then asking him if I could come along and that. And I was doing that for 18 months as a hobby. And then the then tournament director, the late Tommy Cox, who's one of three that are responsible for us being here tonight, if you like, said there's a new thing starting called Premier League Darts, and you've been helping out for a year and a half. We'd like to see you on stage in Stoke, and the rest is history. So from January 20th, 2005, that was it, and here we are.
So you skipped all of the volunteer marker and straight to the big time?
There weren't, in them days, there weren't a marking scheme. I will say this about the marking scheme, it's one of the best things that's happened on the Pro Tour, and now the Challenge Tour and the Women's Tour, Development Tour. One of the best things, and long may that continue, and it's very well organised as well. And you have to be a certain standard.
Yeah.
So I will take this opportunity, if you are a budding marker, just come along or email, just go on the website and email Memmard, her name is, and she'll invite you along, and let's have a look at it.
Yeah, I did one of the World Youth Championship qualifiers last year, and I was fortunate enough to do a group game, which was Jensen Walker, Dominic Grulich, and one other, and then I did Gian Van Veen's last 32 game
nice
against Dominic.
game,
that was 6-5. Unbelievable
Nice
game.
slow game for you.
I think Gian's left one 73 times. Dominic's one heck of a player as well. Came close through the German Super League recently and through the Eastern European qualifier, I believe. But yeah, it's some setup. That was an MK. I also played a bit of Dev Tour as well. I've seen you skulking about in Wigan and Barnsley alike.
Around, yeah. So on Pro Tours we are on Pro Tours I actually referee in the streaming boards.
Right, yeah.
One of the 4 streaming boards, and we go down to board winner, then obviously last 16 quarterfinals. And sometimes I do the final, but ordinarily I'm one of the people on the floor that just make sure the boards run in a orderly fashion. Try and make sure the players are behaving themselves, and just get
Big task.
Sounds like a challenging task,
No,
Scott.
they're okay. Generally speaking, they're okay. Every now and again, you'll get a situation that needs sorting out, but that's what we're there for. But 99.99% of the time, it's fantastic.
Yeah, well, because unlike most tournaments that most people out there will have been to, there's nobody sat shouting games out over the microphone every single round, is it? Once you get to the PDC level, we're telling you at the start of the day, and then there's you and a couple of us walking around with clipboards going, if you're not here in 5 minutes, you're gone. It's up to you to keep an eye on what's going.
It's a bit longer than that. We do give them, I think it's about 10 minutes between games, especially if they need to go straight back on, so they have to cool down and then warm back up again. But we have our tournament director, Pro Tour manager, Keith Bisbee. He's in charge of the whole tournament. Then you've got 4 or 5 officials that actually he lets us run it. Yeah, he lets us run that.
Yeah. So you said you started in 2005.
January the 20th.
So it's 20 years next month. You've seen an awful lot of darts, Scott.
So it will be 20 years on January the 20th coming up. Yeah, 20 years.
What stands out? Because you've seen probably more darts than virtually any other person in the country. There's maybe a handful, of, if that, one or 2 people. In terms of moments that stand out where you've been stood on a stage for a special moment, what stands out to you as the things you'll really remember?
For me, the first one, there's a couple. The first one is Phil Taylor's 2-9 darters. I was marking for Phil that night. I was marking Phil's scores, and the thing about that in the Premier League final 2010, it was supposed to happen the night before, and there was a power cut at Wembley Arena. But the night it got postponed to the following night. Okay. However, England were playing at Wembley Stadium, which is about just 300 or 400 yards.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's metres away, isn't it?
So it went ahead, and instead of 10,000 there was 5,000. But when that moment happened, and Phil hit his second 9 darter, it sounded like not only with 5,000, it sounded like there were 50,000.
Wow.
The atmosphere was unbelievable. That is my let's say, favourite or most memorable moment. And then another one will be one of my first ever World Championship matches I did down at the Circus Tavern.
What a venue! What a venue!
Terry Jenkins versus Jimmy Mann.
Wow.
Right, so Jimmy Mann took the lead, and this is the first match where I'm thinking, you know what you're involved in. You really do know what you're involved in. And Terry Jenkins just kind of pulled him back and beat Jimmy that night. And that was the first time I thought, I'm glad I'm doing this job. Because the atmosphere in the Circus Tavern that night was unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable.
So with that, and you talked about two huge, huge events where there's a massive atmosphere. How challenging is it for you, where you're, and Jack probably knows far more than I do on this, but where your job involves you being, I imagine, very focused and having to really concentrate on what's going on, and obviously there's maths and there's accuracy. How much different is that in that environment with that atmosphere compared to, say, on a pro tour? Does it change it for you at all? Is it a different experience?
It doesn't. You have to be on song all the time. I think if you're on stage in the big arenas, I think the more you do it, it doesn't necessarily become easier, but it's like water off a duck's back, and you deal with situations, you're expecting situations, and you deal with them easier.
I quite like the noise as a marker. I don't like deadly silence, because that's when you start drifting in your mind, isn't it? And start thinking about what you're having for dinner and stuff.
You are trying to keep. That's a good way, actually. I'll say it this way. So the officials and the players are on the stage, trying to keep their cool and do the job, while there's 15,000 people behind us, kind of
going wild.
Going mad, going absolutely wild, and it works. We're a good team up there, so there's two markers marking one player each, and there's one referee. And if anything, if there is a slight problem, we work as a team and we get through it. Yeah, and one of the markers next to the referee has an earpiece in, so the stat boys and the second referee off stage, if there needs to get a message to us, so they'll get radioed. The player next to the marker next to the ref, will give the information to the referee to sort that particular situation out. Yeah.
Especially with modern crowds.
It's all about keeping you cool. It's all about keeping you cool.
Scott, I can't thank you enough for coming and joining us tonight. It's been a real pleasure to get your insight ahead of this massive event and just find out a little bit more about how you got involved and everything. I just
want to tell, if possible, I just want to say one story, if possible.
Go on.
Right. So it was last year, and I was on my way to the Ali Pali from the tournament hotel. It's about 4 miles away. I was on my own in the car because I was players marshal this particular day, wasn't marking, and it takes about half an hour. So anyway, I was going down the Holloway Road, and I've seen Elvis Presley, Fred Flintstone, and the Pope, right, walking into a pub on the Holloway Road.
There's a joke there somewhere.
And I'm thinking, that's either very unusual or the beginning of a very funny joke. Right? So I'm laughing my head off. I'm at these lights and I'm literally, tears are coming down. And all I've heard is, and I've looked in my mirror and there's a car behind gesticulating, I think. Lights are on green. And I've looked to my right, there's another car there, and this on my life, this is true. I've looked and it's the Mask driving his car. And I'm thinking to myself, and I've looked at him, he's looked at me, again, he's gone, Mark. Yeah. And his window down, and he just shouted 180 to me. So ordinarily that would be unusual, but given where we were and given where all them 4 people were going to, that is not unusual. And I will say this: if you ever do come to the World Championships, the PDC World Championships at Ali Pali, come in fancy dress. You won't be out of place. You will, as our MC John McDonald always says, you will buy your seat, but you'll only be using the edge of it, because that's how it gets it. And for me, sometimes biggest isn't always best, but it is the biggest darts tournament on the planet, the PDC World Championship. But for me, it's also the best. It's all about the crowd for me, and the atmosphere. they produce, the atmosphere, and believe me, we feel it, and more importantly, the players feel it and feed off it as well, and long may it continue.
I love you. Scott, thank you so much for joining us. It's
problem
been a
at all.
real pleasure to have you along tonight.
No problem at all.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. And then just that insight is so different from many other people that we get to speak to.
Yeah.
It's really kind of you to come along. Folks, we're gonna have a really quick break. We're gonna squeeze a quick ad break in while we have a little shuffle of seats and get a few other people along. Once you are back with us, we are going to talk through section 1 of the 2025 Paddy Power PDC Darts World Championship, which, don't forget folks, is the section that contains the world #1 and defending champion Luke Humphries. So some very interesting discussions to come. Make sure you get in the chat room with your predictions, and we'll see you all very shortly.
Introducing the Paddy Power World Darts Championship.
Thank you, mate. Really, no, that was
I
absolutely
could have said
brilliant.
it.
Welcome back, folks, and as promised, we are back with you to discuss section 1 of the 2025 PDC Darts World Championships. You will notice that we've actually been joined I don't know where I go in terms of who's the more special guest, because after a couple of weeks missing from the live lounge, Mr. Phil Bars is back with us, the famous Mr. Phil Bars, but we're also joined...
Alright, bitches, it's Dartmas.
We are also joined by our very kind host this evening, Chris Mason. Chris, before we start going through it, how are you? How are
good,
things?
mate. Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, looking forward to the Worlds, obviously. A lot of hard work between now and then, doing countless hours of research, and then a real busy time down at Ali Pally. I'm working for Paddy Power in the Fans Village, so you can win £50 if I can't beat your score, so you should all be very wealthy after a couple of days. And Paddy Power will be absolutely skint.
I don't want to talk about your last seniors performance, mate.
I've seen you having a chuck earlier today, and I don't think it's going to be as easy as people think, Chris. I've seen you having
I've as much as it pains me, I sort of, after the last seniors losing to Martin, who played very well, all credit to him, nothing's changed, mate. There's still a scratch I've got itch, so I had about a week off, and then I'm just started back practicing again. Yeah, and then I'm down doing the hospitality, doing the radio, and doing a bit of talk sport podcasting as well. So that'll be a nice added bonus.
Good. Well, it's good to hear, because for those that don't know, Darts on the radio, you might listen to that and think that seems a bit strange. I promise you, Darts on the radio is absolutely superb. It is one of the best ways to take in darts, and the folks that deliver it to us do an incredible job of it. So definitely check out some Darts on the radio.
I'll tell you why it works at this time of the year, especially when your missus is dragging you around the shops, whether it be pre-Christmas or in the sales. Get the app on your phone, stick your little earbud in, and you're going, yeah, I'm having a great time, and you don't miss a bit of the dart.
Well, I think this might be the one live lounge of the year that Mrs. S does actually tune into, so I'll keep quiet on that front. And with that, we'll move on, ladies and gentlemen, to having a little look through section 1. So there's a couple of little things we're gonna look at here. We're gonna first of all have a quick run through those first round games, those deciders, and see who we think. Is there a qualifier that's going to upset somebody? What do we think that's going to happen? We're going to have a little chat about seeds that we think might be a little bit in danger in this section, and there might be one or two from this section that those think. And then we'll see if we can pull out who we think can go on a little bit of a run and who will win the quarter. water. Who's gonna go on a little run? Now, my laptop in front of me here is currently 26% of the way through what is quite possibly
We've had a great afternoon,
the worst timed update in the history of Microsoft updates. So I am going to ask my esteemed colleague Jack Garwood to guide us through that first round while we make some predictions.
Is that me, is it? Oh, that'll be me.
That's you, mate.
Big session, big quarter, I think, of this one. Not just for the big names, because there are some quarters that are missing quality, I think is fair to say. It's nice and
There's
open.
certainly easier ones
Yeah.
and harder ones, that's for sure. And this is quite a toughie.
Yeah, Luke Humphries starting against Thibaut Trico or Joe Camille. I don't really envisage any difficulties for him there. His challenges will come later into the tournament, I think.
Yeah, and listen, Thibaut Tricol or Joe will face Luke, and I think it'll be Thibaut who comes through that one, and then I think that's a nice opening game for Luke. He'll have a little bit of a test. He'll be pushed in sets. Set play, of course, a totally different format. The only other time they do it is for the Grand Prix, and that's taken away because it's double start. It makes it even more complicated, or more like leg play, I suppose. But yeah, I think Luke gets through that one, and then potentially that's when the tests really start to come.
I mean, the rest of the draw stacks up. His opponent or seed from the last 32 would be Raymond van Barneveld if he can get through Nick Kenny or Stowe Bunce. I was really, really impressed with Stowe in Portsmouth a few weeks back. He's got a great approach to the game. It's setting up 6-star outs from the second visit, and not to be stereotypical, but that's not something we've typically seen from the boys that have come across the Atlantic.
No, and that was something that sort of I was more introduced to by Luke Littler down at the Live Lounge, down at the Super Series, because there was this pattern he was following of when he's had 2 visits to the board, he's constantly trying to leave himself a number that can be completed in 6, whether it be 304, 344, 350, you know, and that's something that you're aware of, but he's actually conscious of constantly doing it. And Stowe can play, and it's a tough game for Nick Kenny. I think they'll be quite happy with the draw.
Yeah.
I don't think they'll know too much about each other, but I think that game gels really well. I think that goes to a final set.
Yeah, I swear, this is what. Go on.
I was going to say, I think where we looked at Thibaut or Joe going through to Luke Humphries, I think Raymond van Barneveld, whilst I don't have him marked as the seed in danger in this quarter, I think either Nick or Stowe have the real potential to give Barney a really good game. Phil, what do you think on that one?
They won't fear Barney, that's for sure. Look,
Correct.
he's not in the best of Nick, and there are some seeds that you go, I don't want that one, but he is one that, as a non-seed, you will want to attack. Look, we know that Barney's A game is incredible when we see it. And we don't see it enough anymore.
No, but that might be the situation where that suits him perfectly.
Yeah.
He'll go under the radar. There's no expectations from him, only his own expectations, and he may well. He's a dangerous floater, Barney, because you know he's got that one good game in him. I don't think he's got 2 or 3, but if the Barneveld turns up and just does enough to get rid of either Nick Kenny or Stowe Bunce, he could potentially give Humphries nightmares and then play pretty ordinary in the next round, which is nothing more annoying.
The interesting thing as well, I've spent 2 weeks on the road with these exhibitions that they're all doing. He's tinkering all the time.
Right.
I've seen different
Luke or Barney?
Barney. I've seen different combinations of darts, flight, stem, moulded, unmoulded.
How did totally off the thing, but he is a 2-time former champion. Adrian Lewis won one of those nights, didn't he?
Incredible.
Yeah, 9 in
The
the
action looked.
Did he get a 9?
Yeah.
Well, it was on the
sort
clip,
of.
but I'm not sure if it was.
action
He went
Rolls
180,
Royce.
Scott went
Was he?
180, and then he had a
Was he looking
141. So.
The action looked Rolls Royce, but Barney is tinkering. He's not happy on his setup at the moment.
Right,
We're seeing
okay.
short points.
Luke's
long
threatened
points.
to tinker, but only after this World Championship as well. So he's got his head screwed on, but the fact that's at the back of his mind
Does he
might
want
be a
to go
little bit of a
to a
worry.
slightly heavier dart or
No, it's a
something?
longer point.
Right, okay.
But
He's already got one of the longest setups in darts, and the balance, they're really nicely balanced. I have thrown a setup of his darts, but to then go point-wise probably means he needs more on the back end of it, and he's already got one of the longest back ends in the game.
So the next game that we get to, and I think...
Can I just dub this?
Absolutely,
I dub this the Phil Bar's 30 seconds? Because it's James Wade and Peter Wright as the seed.
well, if James
2 of his favourite interviews.
It's like Barzy's best mates have come together for a party.
if James Wade's here, am I barred then?
You're actually not allowed. You're not allowed to do this. So I think the next game, the opening game, Jermaine Wattimena against Stefan Belmont. Winner plays James Wade. I think if we'd have this conversation 12 months ago, it's a very different conversation.
Absolutely.
None of us are sitting here thinking, well, Jermaine what I mean, I might bash them both up and without taking a blow. Is this a very different Jermaine what I mean?
I make Watamina favourite to win that little section.
I think I have to agree.
Because the way he's playing at the moment and that scoring power.
He hit 9 at the weekend as well.
Yes.
In Birmingham.
In Birmingham, yeah, he did at that competition. Wesley plays here and. Yeah, good luck with that one.
Ryose Asamoah. Well, the thing is, like, both seeds are in trouble here. And even we're saying how well Jermaine is playing. Belmont's no fault.
No, absolutely not.
I've refed him enough, and the pace of Belmont will not suit Jermaine.
I mean, whoever comes through that game is going to give Wadey fits.
Yeah.
Well, especially James's
Wadey
record.
looks really good again as well. Like, it's such a strange one to call Wadey because he bloody hates this venue. He hates this tournament. Full stop. Like, since that AD Lewis semi-final. He's not been the same player at all.
No.
Even when it opens up for him, was it COVID year? He made it all the way to the semis. He played appalling.
Well, he was it 3 180s just to get to the quarterfinals. And look, for everything James has won, his record at this tournament is horrific.
For someone, of that.
For everything he's won, the CV is glittering.
Yeah.
But the record here,
two semi-finals.
Yeah, and he talks about it as well.
I say that here. I live off 2 semi-finals.
Mardo's got 5.
Yeah, but I want a TV tournament. We've now established that.
And you got pumped.
Yeah.
Moving into the other half of this draw, Alan Suter and Kai got. Kai's no fool. We've seen him in Portsmouth a couple of times. Champions Week just last week. We'll no doubt talk about him a little bit when we bring Tom in later. Suits. I don't know how to judge Suits.
You just don't know, do you?
No.
He went through that incredible spell. And then
he went for a fit-in with his manufacturer, didn't he? Where they basically tinkered with his back-end setup a little bit. Came out the blocks, did more 180s than anybody else for 2 months, and then it's completely fallen off again. The problem with that one is I don't envisage either of them getting past Bunting. Stephen Bunting right now is one of the best players in world darts.
Absolutely.
And I don't want to mention the P word right now, but he has to be in
Premier League
for that
Well, I know. I remember 6 months ago. We can't talk about it. It's a little bit triple crown, wasn't that? Yeah. I mean.
Trying to say it's not real.
6 months ago, it was a bit early to talk about the Premier League, but now, listen.
6 weeks away, isn't it?
6 weeks away. Good luck picking their 8. Which they should have gone with 10, in my opinion. And do you know what they should have done? What they should have done now that the Masters, what they should do is call it the Winmar World Masters. Remember that conversation we had, Borisy? 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
That would never happen, no.
No, it'd never happen.
Moving on, Dirk van Dijvenbode will face either Madas Rasma or Christian Kist. I'll be honest, gents, does anybody see either of those two upsetting Dirk? 6 months ago again, I think this is a very different conversation.
6 months.
Fit and fighting Dirk right now looks somewhere back to his best. Not quite fully there. I still think there's a little bit to work on up top for Dirk. The physical elements of the game he's got unlocked. It's the can he deal with someone coming back at him when it's not quite going his way, because there are elements where he needs to work on that one. Damon Heta will no doubt pose a threat in this tournament as well. TV record is some that we always talk about, but again,
I like that potential. I expect Scott to win. And Scott's really, he's come out of his shell, hasn't he?
Yeah.
He is, but all I'll say is I think Ben Robb's one of the best players outside the UK not to have a tour card. We saw him go there last year, and he plays anyone else, he wins. He ran into an incredible performance. And look, I agree with you, Connor Scott is favourite, but if we see the Ben Robb that we saw last year, it wouldn't surprise me if he won. Do you know what I mean? Yes, Scott is favourite, but it wouldn't.
But
wouldn't
if my auntie
surprise
had wheels, she'd be a bike.
Yeah. Well, I really like Connor. I've got a lot of time for Connor. We've seen him in Portsmouth an awful lot. I think the worry with Connor is still that the difference between his A and B game is so wide.
Yeah, well, we talk about this all the time, and that's the difference between those fringe players and the elite.
The ranges.
Yeah,
and
the
he's
range.
Getting closer. And his B game is coming up, and he's producing his A game that little bit more often.
I think he would have taken so much confidence at the last tournament he played in that I think we'll see an even better version of him, because once you sort of crack it on TV, all that anxiety goes, and you actually then, believe it or not, you actually look forward to playing on TV. Now I'm petrified of it, but back in the day, that's all you wanted to do was get up there. And I think he's going through that transition period now where he thinks, get me on that stage. I mean, how often do we say it about players back in the day like Dimitri? Not a particularly great floor player. Stick him on stage, put some cameras and lights on, and he comes alive.
different animal. And finally, we wrap up this quarter with Luke Woodhouse or Lawrence Alagan taking on Mike Decker. Now, Lawrence Alagan is one of them that he's sort of become the poster boy for Asian darts, hasn't he? Because he's so enigmatic and he's got his little methods that he goes away, and his action is so smooth. But I think he highlights the significance. A, the Asian tour is very, very good and working, but B, we need to find a way to integrate that into PDC Live, because there's so many of them now that are playing with unbelievable actions, and we're seeing good darts in Asia, but then they're coming over here 1 or 2 chances a year.
Getting bashed up.
I can't believe how old he is. I thought he was in his 20s.
yeah. When you start doing a bit of digging into
I know. No, a couple of years he will be on the seniors tour or the semi-seniors tour.
He's got good skincare routine.
He must have. But yeah, he's a player for me that would have benefited from going on the tour full time, moving over, relocating, because I think his game. I think he's one of them kind of players that the better players he would play, he would improve, and I think it would be a fairly quick improvement. And you're right, they come over and they'll have a go, but the levels are so different. You look at the numbers that you look at their tournament averages, and then look at a Pro Tour tournament averages. It's miles apart, and that's just too. Oh, cats about.
Don't get that on a normal show.
No, don't get that on any show. I know it's like Blue Peter. They had a dog. We got a cat in the pub. But yeah, I expect Luke Woodhouse to come through that test against Lions.
He's playing really nicely, and he had that Richard House battle recently, playing brilliant darts.
But I don't expect either of them to beat Decker.
No, Decker is at 180 hitting right now is different.
And he's another player that he's just blossomed. He's grown in front of our eyes, and his performance in winning the Grand Prix and the route he took to win that Grand Prix, unbelievable.
Well, do you think he should have beaten Littler as well at the Grand Slam, barring crowd interference? And look, Luke did what he did, but Mike has showed he is ready to.
And he backs it up.
To mix it against the very elite.
Having one tournament where everything just falls into place is one thing. He backed it up.
100%. He's here to stay, and the real deal is the nickname. And I genuinely believe that he will be part of the 16-week roadshow. But anyway, we've given our predictions. Who wins this quarter?
Whoa! You've jumped the gun here.
You jumped the gun.
There's more to say about Decker actually, because there's going to be a lot of talk and a lot of pressure at the minute, and someone we're going to talk to shortly as well about how quickly you can get onto the tour and hit the ground running a la Luke Littler, because there's so much pressure coming from not just what Luke's done, but what's coming from even younger. We looked at the Lakeside World Championship last week. Archie Self, fantastic player. Jensen Walker, Lex Payshouse, who's 13, the Belgian lad, absolutely smashed up the JDC recently as well. But Mike's one who, look, if you go back and look at development tour, him and Dimitri were level. They were equals. Dimmy's gone on and won multiple majors in the last couple of years. Mike's finally broken that seal now at 30 years old. You don't have to have everything right here, right now. Is what Mike Decker represents.
I think if it comes too early, I don't think that represents longevity in players, and we've seen it for years and years and years. Well,
Jeffrey Dejuan as well is a prime example of that. Burst onto the scene, beat MVG twice in 2 majors.
Another in that similar era of Dev Tour as well. They were all amongst each other.
And now he's relying on a run here to keep his tour card again.
Yeah.
So just before we come to who wins the quarter,
Mike Decker plays Luke Humphries in the final of that little section.
You jumped the gun again.
Sorry.
we need to do
3 questions.
Seed most in danger. Here we go. Right now,
Peter Wright.
See,
actually, this sounds a bit silly.
I can't wait to watch him in the Premier League next year.
I'm not going to say Peter Wright.
I don't think it's on our list, but we definitely need a 5-minute travelling roadshow chat at the end of this show, Mr. Producer in the background, because we've mentioned it a couple of times. And look, if he's threatening to give it up / 1 more year, does he get a testimonial like Barney did? Because that was definitely a handout. You're telling us you're going when you give you one more.
I can say there will be no handout.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about that later on. Right, seed most in danger. Who did you go for?
Peter Wright.
I'm not going to go with the crowd. I'm going to go with James Wade, because I think Peter Wright is the obvious. We know how Peter Wright has been playing for a year, and if you pick Peter Wright, I think you're picking him because of his performance. Whereas in terms of seed in danger, you're looking at someone who's going to come and turn up and beat them. And I think Jermaine Wattimena, from what we've seen of him recently, he could turn up and we could see a really good performance from James Wade, and he still remains in danger.
It'd be interesting to see how the odds compilers price that up in terms of if Wattimena wins, which I expect him to do, against Wade, and Wesley against Peter Wright. I wonder which would be.
I think they'll have Plaisir favourite against Wright, but Wade will be slight favourite against Wattimena because of the history and so on. That
Yeah.
They don't often go against the seed, but we all know in Wright's case that he is so out of form that I think Plaisir would be favourite.
I'm going to chuck a cheeky Damon Hetter into the equation as well, purely because of the level we expect from either Rob or Scott.
Scott, that's a good shout.
Well, following on from that potentially, so who, and we're not going for finalists here, but who have we got maybe from that first round that has the potential to go on a bit of a run, to knock off a couple of seeds and really upset the odds makers in this semi-final?
In that section, Scott for me, I think he's playing at such a high level and he's playing with so much confidence right now that he's the one that could potentially cause carnage.
I think that
it's such a tough game against Hetter, and then the winner of what I expected, Decker.
Yeah,
I mean, I know
it doesn't get easy in this section, does it?
No.
No, but that bottom half of the section as well, I think you could make a case for either Watermina or Plaisir, because what we've seen in them for the year, but because obviously they sit in that top section with Luke Humphries, and I just think whenever a player sits in a draw with Luke Humphries, it's very difficult to make a case for them to upset people and go and do something different. Phil, anything different?
We've got a new director over there. if there is any buttons pressed, it's the cap's fault.
I think Bunce can beat Barney, but I don't think he can beat Humphries.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that call. Or Kenny. I think Nick Kenny can beat Barney.
My only worry for Nick Kenny is the added pressure of he needs to win because of that tour card.
Yeah.
And
his free roll of
when you
getting
go there,
close,
extra pressure.
that you know I need to win 3 games, I need to win 2 games, and that's
tough enough to win one. But
that's what I mean. The pressure is there. You're thinking,
that's fair
I don't want to go to Q school. I need to win this, and it can go very wrong.
Yeah.
But Chris, I know you went in fairly early with your predictions of who wins and who they defeat. But let's
not
just
like
have
me
it.
after this is. But right now, when I look at form and a bit of recency bias, I'm gonna go Humphries against Decker and Humphries to get through that one. I think Humphries defends his title, by the way.
Jack, who are you going?
It's got to be Humphries, despite being a really tough section. I think he'll take on Bunting.
Yeah.
I really like Stephen Bunting's game.
He's flying.
He's absolutely flying. He looks brilliant, and in that travelling roadshow for me, as of next year as well.
Well, I think I've seen.
He's made himself marketable as well, and he's playing well.
The exhibition of him.
Yeah.
The Sky Sports exhibition.
Yeah.
I think I've seen just enough, and I've been probably the member of the team that has pulled back for about a year on predicting anything involving in Dirk van Duijvenbode. But I think I've seen just enough from him that makes me think he can almost fight his way through that section. But I do think he is beaten by Luke Humphries in the quarter-finals.
Not a bad show.
So then, folks, that's section 1. We'll have a quick look into the... Have we got some predictions in the chat? I'm trying to see the chat room. Let's have a quick look and see. I tell you what, we'll maybe go through a few of them a little bit later, while my laptop has a bit of a moment. So, in that case, we will go to another ad break. When we come back from the ad break, we will talk through section 2. The chair that Chris is filling at the minute will be filled by yet another... Let's go with... let's keep it a surprise. Yet another. No, I've got it in front of me. It's just a surprise.
Won't be the barman on it.
Yeah, we'll bring the cat. We're going to bring the cat. See what the cat thinks of it all. Folks, we'll be back in a couple of minutes to talk through section 2 of the Paddy Power World Championships for 2025. See you in a moment.
Introducing the Paddy Power World Darts Championships.
Welcome back, folks, to the Online Darts Live Lounge from the Prince of Wales in Ilkeston. And we're now ready to talk through Section 2 of the draw. But you will notice we have been joined by yet another special guest this evening, who is the only man in Britain who owns the second amount, or the second most Matt Egger shirts behind me. I still hold the record, he's lagging behind slightly. Matt Egger, it's absolutely lovely to have you aboard this evening. How are you, first of all?
My mum's got quite a few of my shirts as well.
Not as many as me.
This man, every single raffle
Not
you've
as
seen on
many as
Twitter
me.
that you've donated a shirt to, this man as well.
Not as many
Right.
as me.
Just got a collection.
They're all in the other room. You might sign them later, hopefully.
I don't want to devalue on it anymore.
Matt, how are things going, first of all?
Busy.
Busy? Keeping busy?
Busy, yeah, busy. But busy's good.
Yeah?
Busy's good. I'd rather be busy than not. So I'm going to actually have a bit of time off over Christmas, which is great. You know, I don't know what the house looks like anymore. So you're going to get an opportunity to see that. And yeah, I'm actually looking forward to having a bit of time off. But I say time off, World Championships is on, so you're going to be streaming and making videos and everything that goes with that as well. So it's going to be a busy time still.
So in terms of busy, where does the next sort of 3 to 6 months, what in terms of Matt Egger being busy, what does that look like? Is that practicing darts? Is that doing commentary? Is it creating content for YouTube? What does busy look like for you in the next few months?
Right, let's try to remember all the jobs that I've got going on here. So obviously my own YouTube channel. I've got the Mission Darts YouTube channel, which we do. I've got commentary with Modus, with the PDC, doing some sort of studio work, podcasts and things with Sky Sports. I'm developing a project at the moment, which is going to launch the third week of January. That's taking a lot of time, but it's going to be brilliant.
I know.
Phil's seen the photos.
Sounds very exciting.
But it's going to be the best of its kind, I believe, in the UK.
Will it have a shirt attached to it?
If it does, I'll give you one half
I'll
price.
be getting one, yeah.
Half price.
I'll be ordering one.
No, hang on, 10% off, 10%, half price.
No, you heard that chat.
No, 10%.
Hold him to it. The Egger Nation.
So, but in terms of what spikes, because there's lots there.
Yeah.
But what really spikes your interest? Is there something that's dragging you into one element or another? Is that it still inside you? Do you get on a dartboard and think this is what I truly love, or do you then go and do commentary and walk away from it and think, oh, that was amazing? Like, is there something that's really pulling you at the minute, or is the world a bit your oyster still and you're weighing it all up?
That's probably my biggest problem. I put myself into too many different things all the time. I mean, playing darts, yeah, I do still enjoy throwing a dart, but how much I want to be competitive with that, it is very limited. Although I have got the darts out since Lakeside, I had a game, and I tell you, I was bloody good actually.
Really?
Yeah,
They went well?
Yeah, we did an exhibition and played 3 games. 111.33 average in one of them. I was like, have a bit of that. Like, where was that at Lakeside? So it's in. My biggest problem is it could be there on any given day or not, and it's hard to take. And it's like, I look at Lakeside this year and I thought, well, I sucked. And I thought, could I do better? And I don't know. I don't know the answer.
Is that couldn't do better in the moment, or couldn't do better in the build up to it? Because all of the tours are long, hard slogs now to get yourself into that position. You've had your problems of injury over the years. Like, is it just because there's no guarantee that you can go 6 months fully fit without any hiccups to get yourself in a position where you can play your best darts? At the moment, it means the most.
Yeah, and I got myself into a position. I asked myself, set 2 legs all. I've turned around, I've got the crowd involved. That's where I normally thrive, yes.
That sounds like you.
That's where I thrive. That's what I enjoy doing. And it's fun. I enjoy it, it's fun. And at that point, that's when I needed to respond. That's the first time I say, right, Matt, produce. And I didn't. 9 darts of nothing. Didn't even get 1 treble in 9 darts.
Welcome to my world.
Yeah. It's just not good enough. I mean, especially against Yarno, that was a tough first round draw. So could I go and do it again? I don't know. Right, here's the story.
Is it a could, or is is there a desire to go and do it again? Because you played on all the big stages now, ticking Lakeside off was a big tick for you.
Not the way it happened, it wasn't.
I'm going to put this a different way to you here. Cody Rhodes lost to Roman Reigns.
Grow up.
No, I'm going to go one better. Not Cody Rhodes.
He still wanted to finish the
Let's
story.
not go Cody Rhodes. Let's go John Cena lost to The Rock.
Oh wow! Once in a lifetime. Twice in a
Yes,
lifetime.
exactly. We know where we're going with this.
Twice in a
Is it
lifetime.
the time already, producer? We get the next guest in.
And John Cena sat on the ramp. He sat on the ramp and he was disappointed, and he had a year of redemption, didn't he? And he came back and he beat The Rock. That same person has followed me on X. The day I was talking to Connor Scott about going, I'm not doing it no more, I'm packing it in, John Cena, the actual John Cena, followed me. The guy who says never give in. So I have already got a John Cena shirt made just in case. 10% off, 10%. Yeah.
So even with all that hustle, loyalty, and respect, but in terms of time, so you are a very busy man. You've got loads going on.
My diary till May has about 10 days spare in it.
But is that something that if that fire at some point ignites in you, where you decide, right, I am going to have another go? How can you fit what you need to do to get yourself to that level? The amount of practice and the amount of, or let's say, sort of competitive practice that it requires.
No.
Can you fit it in?
No.
How does that come about?
No. So, like Lakeside this year, going into that, the last 3 months, I played one tournament. One tournament, and that was the World Masters. So, I just can't. I can't fit it in. However, I still got there without being able to do that. So if I could find some time to commit to it, who knows? So yeah, it's nice that event's there, and that event is probably, if I am going to play, that's the pinnacle of what I can achieve now with what I can put into it. So yeah, absolutely. I can enjoy getting on a stage like that in front of what was a packed house down there, and I can have another moment. So maybe we'll get an Edgar Mania 5 at some point.
Does the fact that you're so busy elsewhere take the pressure off being a dart player as well?
Yeah.
Or does it add to it? Because obviously there's a large backing, there's a lot of people in the chat room talking about Matt being at Lakeside and whatever else. Some of them not all so positive, I'll be honest, but we'll ignore that bit. But does having that following that you've got on YouTube supporting you change the way that you go about being a dart player?
Yeah.
Can I just stop you there? He's not a dart player, he's a commentator, remember?
Yeah, I'm not a dart player. I'm not a dart player. No.
Depending from here.
Right, well, seeing as though he's a commentator and he's here to do some punditry, let's move along quickly towards section 2 of the 2025 Paddy Power World Darts Championship. So again, the chaps over there, Matt, what we're going to do, we're going to have
You're
a quick...
bunch of comedians, aren't you, you lot, by the way? You give me the section with Darius Labanauskas in.
We haven't even asked you your thoughts on Super Series last week, but we can
I was trying to avoid the question.
Darius Labanauskas, yeah.
It's always
Cheers for
Now,
that. Yeah.
oddly enough, there might be another guest later on this evening with a slightly similar view. Spoiler alert. Let's just we'll quickly go through. We'll look at the first round and second round games together. We'll see if we think there's any seeds in danger, and then we'll come to who we think is going to come through this quarter. Gents, just starting off with Ryan Meikle, Fallon Sherrock, and then of course Luke Littler. This is the game. Well, let's be honest. There is a potential game here that I'm sure that anybody who is involved in darts where they can commercialise it is desperately wanting for.
The world wants Fallon Sherrock against Luke Littler because of what it will do. However, we have to be respectful for Ryan Meikle. He's a tour card holder. He's a very good player.
I think it's a straight yes or no.
So let's not overlook him.
Matt,
no, we're not overlooking him, but the similar way that the people that beat Steve Beaton the other week in his final game, Ryan Meikle will get shot. He's a lovely lad, and he's a great darts player. But if he denies, the Sky execs will be gunning for him if he denies us Fallon v Littler.
Matt, do we see Fallon Sherrock against Luke Littler, or does Ryan Meikle spoil the party?
I think we do.
Hey.
I think we do. If we look on the evidence of what's happened over the last 12 months, that's a ridiculous statement to suggest, because Ryan Meikle should win that game comfortably.
Correct.
However, they're not going to play in the environment that Ryan Meikle's been playing in those games. He's going to play in a very hostile environment because he's going to know everyone wants him to lose. And the atmosphere in that building that night will be exactly the same. So I think Fallon comes through it in a tight one and gives us a game where the viewing numbers for that could be the same as the final.
I think it could be bigger.
Could be bigger, depending on who's in the final.
Because you've got such a cross where Luke Humphries was an incredible dart player. Luke had captured the story of the tabloids and the mainstream media, where Fallon is a completely different demographic again, as we saw when she won at Ali Pali and then at the Grand Slam and things like that as well. Bring those two demographics together, this could literally break the internet.
Well, it's the two big stories, isn't it? Since 1994 PDC World Championship started, and since then it's been who's the best player in the tournament. We've had two side stories, and they could clash. It's
the two biggest stories. I agree with you since the split.
Yeah.
It's not been obviously Phil Taylor wins, but it is Fallon and Luke have done things that no other dart player have done. They've put the sport into areas that no other player has done or arguably could do.
We thought Rob might be that person, didn't we? When he comes from pretty much nothing, UK Open qualifier 1 year, that was the fairy tale story. But to have had Fallon do what she's doing, we've seen Mikuru go close and Lisa play lovely up there as well, and then Luke to go all the way to the final last year. They've captured a global audience
100%.
without winning as well, which is even harder to do.
I remember in New York when Fallon played there for the first time, and darts was just on the rise. Did 2 media days, and literally you had multiple world champions in Michael Van Gerwen, Gary Anderson, Peter Wright, go on, and the queue for Fallon was like nothing I've ever seen. It was they all wanted a piece of Fallon, not the world champions and what they're bringing. The story was Fallon, and the same as Luke this year. The story and the clamour for Luke was like nothing we've ever seen. He got to go to WWE headquarters. I know you don't like it, but that's
ridiculous.
That's mad that he was invited to WWE headquarters, and most organisations have got multiple accounts in English, X, Y, and Z, but main WWE account posted about darts. That was massive because of the reach and the audience that got in North America.
Cody Rhodes got involved.
100%. William Regal was there. It was mad, all because of this 17-year-old boy.
Phone comes out, doesn't it? As soon as you go wrestling, is
Yeah, he's bored now. Now, with the greatest of respect to the players involved in the next little section, this game probably doesn't have the commercial attraction of the previous one, but
It does if you mission and own the sleeve.
we sold out. It's sold out.
on left.
Normally it's get the badge in, not now. Get the sleeve in.
Sleeve in, right.
I'll
so-
tell you the true story, actually, if you want. So the sleeve was a discontinued product, and it hit the sale. Like we had to put it in the sale because it weren't selling. And then Richie Edhouse went and won that, and we've done this contest around the sleeve, and they all sold out. They've reordered it again now.
It was about to be discontinued.
and now it's out. Yeah. So come on, Richie.
Yeah, well, we've got, so first of all, we've got Ian White's been a hot topic in the Prince of Wales this afternoon because I managed to turn up with a set of Ian White code darts that I think everyone's passed around and to let's say mixed reviews. Ian Wright against Sandro Eric Sossing. Do we see Ian White against Richie Edhouse, Matt? And does Ian White pose a problem for Richie Edhouse?
I think Ian White always causes a problem. He also causes a problem for himself, though, as well at times, doesn't he? So, but I think Richie Edhouse is going to come through that. But Ian White, he's one of those consistent types, isn't he? Like Ian White's not going to lose anything. You've got to beat him. And Ian White, we've seen what he does recently. Beat Michael Van Gerwen at the Players' Championship
Superb
finals.
performance, that as
Very,
well. One that
very
I didn't think Ian White still had in him.
No, I agree with you. I didn't think he had that performance in him. And the 170, the 102 average was just
to sustain it
remarkable.
at the back end of the game as well.
Where I don't mean this horribly, but Ian White has been notoriously found it hard to get over the line in big games. So to do that in the twilight of his career is remarkable.
Here's a debate, an interesting one. See if anyone's got a... Why does a player like Ian White, in your opinion, win on things like the European Tour, win all these stages, but doesn't do it on the TV stages?
Purely mental.
Okay.
Getting over the hurdle for the first time.
Got a theory?
I think part of it is the record that comes before, because then you're constantly trying to break it. Kim Huybrechts was far too good to be losing 8 in a row at the match play or whatever he did in the first round. But that record started to become a factor every time you go on TV. And every time we're talking about Ian White, we're going, well, he's not that great on TV. Damon Hatter's had to deal with similar for the last couple of years.
But what's
because
the
his draw
difference?
form has been so good.
Mental.
Ad breaks. Ad breaks. You play on the Euro Tour, you play from start to finish straight through. You go on the Ali Pali stage, you might be on 5 minutes, you're off for 3. Then you play 3, then play another 3 legs or 5 legs, you're off again. I think it's the ad breaks. That could be the difference with why we've seen this so many times. Something we never consider.
Moving on to the next one. Have we got Ryan Joyce beating Danny Nopper?
Matters because he doesn't want to see Darius do it again.
Everybody knows. My penchant for darts players for the North East means that Ryan Joyce, it breezes through.
No one beats Darius Labanauskas in the first round. That man is a beast in round one. So I've got Darius versus Danny Nopper there. No one takes Darius out.
Phil?
I've got Joyce against Nopper.
And who comes through it?
Nopper.
Wow. You're wrong.
Danny beats Darius for me.
Let's keep going because we are slightly pressed for time. We're not pressed for time, but we need to move at a little bit of pace. This is a little section that I find very intriguing. Matt Campbell, who came through a qualifier, Mencia Suljovic, who has been a very mixed bag over a period of years, and Ryan Searle, who, whilst being very consistent for quite a long time, has thrown a bit of a mixed bag for the last 12 months. I think this is a bit of a lottery, this little threesome here. What do we think?
So,
I like Matt Campbell's A game, but we don't see it enough. When Matt Campbell is on, I remember when he first broke into the scene playing for Canada, we were like, "Whoa, who's this?" And then he went on to win the North American Darts Classic as well. So the game is there, but do we see it enough? No, we don't, which is why he struggles to qualify for this. It's can he get it right when it matters?
Mental's had a bit of a mini revival of late as well, hasn't he? The last 6 months have not been terrible for Mental. It's not quite Champions League form that he was in a few years back, but there are signs that Mental Suljovic isn't as done for as perhaps we perceived at the start of the year, and always in contention to lose his card and whatever. He will pose a threat. It won't be the prettiest game. I still expect Searle to come through either of them, but I don't see Searle going massively far because I get that not everybody is extrinsically motivated and a big character, but for Searle to just say I'm happy just being in the position I am as a sports person has me worried that perhaps the drive isn't quite there to take him in those crucial moments where he needs to go to.
I still think that whilst we have seen a bit of a mixed bag from Ryan Searle this year, I think Mencia Suljovic, I mean, his peaks and troughs, granted they've been mainly troughs in recent times. Matt Campbell has an amazing A game, like you say, but he peaks and troughs. And I just think Ryan Searle finds a far more consistent level. Even when he's not playing particularly well, he still manages to find some level of consistency. I don't think the variance in his game, in terms of those highs and lows, is as far as it is with the other two players. And because of that, I think Ryan Searle relatively comfortably moves through this little section.
You know Ryan pretty well, don't you? You practice with him. Like, he's so laid back, or from our perspective anyway, is that how he is in that practice room? And do you think that's a benefit, or do you think
it's him in life? He's one of the most laid back people I know. One of the most laid back people I've ever met. We used to share on the Pro Tour, and certainly sort of like as it were coming out of COVID, they preferred you to practice in your room as long as you could and go down to the venue quite late. So I'd be up practicing in the room and he'd be laid in bed playing Mario Kart. Up to about an hour before we went down. And you'd say, Ryan, like, do you want to get up, have a quick wash, let's go. Go down, smashing 105 average. It's like, how do you do that? Like, Mario Kart's the way forward. Mario Kart and FIFA, so used to say it. Like,
and squishies.
Squishies and boost bars.
Yeah.
That's where I went wrong last week, thinking of squishies.
Shocking.
Next, we've got a potentially a bit of a derby. We've got some players that are quite close to each other. Scott Williams and Nico Springer. The winner meets Rob Cross. With what we've seen from Scott Williams recently, do we think Nico Springer poses much of a threat to him in that initial round?
That's potentially clash of the round.
Yeah, I think Springer could cause an upset.
He played very nicely in Portsmouth the other week. 110 average on the first night, 111 the second night. Looked really, really good. Beaten by Duff in the semis, I think it was, on the Saturday night as well. He's some player, he is.
I think Rob Cross beats either of them.
But
I think Springer could. Williams is favourite, but it wouldn't shock me if Springer won.
Do we need to see Rob Cross's A game early in this tournament? Because both Williams and Springer have got, statistically, they can turn up and throw a darts, or they can throw darts at a level that will be very competitive with Rob Cross. Do we need to see the best from Rob Cross early?
Potentially.
Rob Cross had a weird one for me, because I sat here this time last year and went, He's going massively under the radar and a steady world, comfortably into the Premier League without much fanfare around him. And it feels like he's had a pretty similar year. Whilst everybody else has dropped off in and around that Premier League contention, Aspinall's had his injury, Cullen and Clayton aren't quite the same players that they were. You're looking at Peter Wright dropping off and James Wade are like Cross has still just been there okay. I don't think he's done anything that set the world light. He had that clash with Humphreys on the Euro Tour for a little bit, didn't he, when they had that bit of a rivalry, but I still want more from Rob Cross, and I still feel like Cross can be under pressure if he doesn't deliver.
Rob Cross is reactive. If you go play Rob Cross and throw a 90, he'll beat you with a 91. If you go at a 95, he'll beat you with a 96. And he's one of those players that you feel just gets drawn into playing the player. You go up and play weak, he'll play weak, but just do enough. And that's Rob Cross. So I think if someone lays it down to him, he'll pick it up for sure. And he's probably really underrated, I think. He's a guy who's won the match play and the World Championship. And we never consider it. Every time people go, who's your top 10 players? Rob Cross is never really in that conversation, but he's one of the 2 biggest tournaments in the world.
And he did one of them with his B game. Like, he is one of the best players on tour winning without playing his A game. Comfortably.
Because he just beats the player.
That UK Open,
just
was it the UK Open he did? We averaged like 80 all the time. Ridiculous. But he just does enough to slog it out of everyone else.
Yeah.
Another quite exciting one next. I think again, this section of the draw's got some real or potentially really exciting and interesting games. Ricardo Petrescu against Zhong Xiaozhen, the winner meeting Jan van Veen. Now, Zhong, not a player that, if you are watching PDC product in the UK, you might not be familiar with. Those that stay up late or wake up very early and watch the Asian Premier League might be more familiar with it. But is this, or is he the player, do we think? We've said for years, in order for this Asian tour to really, I suppose, kick on, we have to have somebody arrive at Ali Pali and get through a couple of games. Is this the opportunity, do we think? Or are Petrescu and Van Veen just too established on that tour, too familiar on that stage, and is it a bit comfortable for them?
Asian darts is getting closer, isn't it? We saw it last year, getting so much closer. Petrescu is an interesting one because he's pushing the top 32 in the world, but he didn't make Minehead.
Yeah.
So, where exactly is he in regards to his form? I spoke to him not too long ago, and being the top 32 is his goal, his driving force. He needs a run here, which ultimately, after missing Minehead now and not being in the 32 and having to qualify for everything again, not getting a run here could be quite damaging to that. So I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a shock.
Do we worry about Petrescu's reactiveness to the crowd as well? We saw that with Bo Greaves, didn't we? Despite the fact he won a Euro Tour in front of a home crowd, he seems to be one that likes it his own way a lot, and the other way, it's a really big issue for him.
He's got experience though now playing in front of a crowd, so yes, he doesn't like it, but at the same time, does he love it deep down though as well? Because there is a thing, isn't there, where like as much as people might not want you to win, there's also that benefit, isn't there? Like if someone wants you to lose a game, like if someone wants me to lose a match I'm playing in, I don't take any like negative from that. I think you care about my game. If you want me to lose, I've done my job as an entertainer. If you want to celebrate my loss, brilliant, because you now care about my game. And I think Ricardo Petrescu is very similar to that, in the fact that when he reflects on things, it's very much, well, yes, I got booed, yes, you want me to lose, but at least you care.
Yeah.
So he's remembered by doing that. He's done his job.
I think either of them lose to Van Veen, so...
Yeah, I think Van Veen is in too good form. I think he's too good a player at the minute to be too troubled by either player coming through. Another interesting one next. Cameron Menzies or Leonard Gates will meet Nathan Aspinall.
I'm looking forward to the game because I think it'll be bonkers.
I'm looking forward to the cuddle at the end. It's going to be the most awkward thing in the world.
I mean, everyone wants a Cammy cuddle on, but I think Cammy's playing too well for Leonard at the moment. I think it'll be entertaining. I think Leonard will be in the game. But for me, Menzies wins all the big moments.
But is the bigger question here, is Cammy playing too well for Nathan Aspinall at the minute?
I thought the big question was is Cammy having half a day at work again? Like going down, so it's like viral last year.
Whose toilet is he working on 4 hours before he's due to play?
Only in darts.
Yeah, correct, only in darts.
I haven't seen Aspinall the last few weeks. I think he's actually in good nick, to be fair.
Yeah?
Yeah, he's looked decent. So, look, Cammy could beat Nathan because he's got that game too. I think Cammy comes through it, then I'm expecting a good game between him and Nathan.
Last up, I'll be honest. I rate Nitin Kumar steady, but he is not challenging either Luke or Gilden in this situation. It's straight up.
I don't know if he's watching this, sorry Nitin, but Martin Newman batters him 3-0, goes on to play Andrew Gilden.
Martin Luke was in great form. Looks fantastic, better than ever. Had his moment in a major final recently. Gilden's a former major winner. They're both just going to plod along. They're both going to do more than enough at a level to keep Nitin at bay if that's the case. And for me, we get a Lukeman-Gilden shootout.
I'm just thinking the analytics of this game has been that great that the chat's talking about Last Christmas being on in the background. We're doing a great job.
We might be getting paid for copyright because the music channel, be honest, as well.
We'll get done at some point for copyright. Right, chaps, the seed most in danger in this draw. I'm actually going to kick things off immediately and announce that, of course, it's Danny Noppert who's going to get bashed up by Ryan Joyce. Jack?
Andrew Gilden for me. Martin Lukeman is superb form.
I agree, Gilding for me.
I'll probably go with Aspinall just because I really like Menzies at the minute.
Well, and I'll follow that up because the next question is there someone in the first round, we're not looking at quarter-final winners or anything like that, but is there someone within the first round that you think has the potential to go on a bit of a run and knock a couple of seeds out and get 2, 3, 4 rounds into the tournament? And
Darius Labanowski.
Trying to tee you up.
What a guy. What a guy.
For me, despite not backing Cross to be the seed in danger, it's Scott Williams because if he can beat Rock, we've seen him go on a run to the semi-finals there before. He was the one that sort of started this underdog run in majors that we've seen in the last year or so. He looked really good in Minehead recently as well. Looked brilliant in a couple of exhibitions that I've seen post-wise as well. He was one that was throwing with A.D. Lewis when he's hit that 9 that's gone viral on socials recently. If he can get through Rob Cross, he's one that's equipped to go on a really big run.
I agree. I don't think he beats Cross though, but I agree if he can get past Cross that we've seen the explosiveness to go there. The other one as well, that I look at it, Ryan Searle could just blitz that little field and face Littler. We've seen the game there.
What a game that would be. The pace of that would be beautiful.
But do we see that from Searle? If we do, that potential showdown of Littler could be explosive.
So if we do see that, Phil, that'll be one game before the quarter-finalists. So the last thing I'll ask you all for now, for section 2 of the draw, is who beats who in the quarter-final. Phil, we'll start at you and we'll come around the table this way.
Littler beats Van Veen.
Stolen my thunder there, mate. Gob?
I don't hate that, but I'm going to go Littler beats Lukeman, I think.
Oh, interesting call. Matt, what are you thinking?
Someone in your chat's going, Vessel, he's not even in this section.
Later on, we will get to it, I promise. We'll cover it all.
Littler beats Rob Cross.
Well, I am going to have to, for a very rare occasion, agree with Phil Bars, and I think Luke Littler beats Jan van.
And I'll just say, I love the fact we spent even more time on this section than the one previously, which was quite heavily contested, just to go, yeah, Littler wins.
Yeah, there was an awful lot of conversation to Luke Littler wins. Matt, thank you very, very much for coming in and joining us at the Live Lounge Live site. It's been an absolute pleasure. If you ever need a Matt Edgar shirt, I've got loads of them. Give me a shout and I'll be able to sort you out. Thank you, we really appreciate you coming to join us. Folks, we will be back after a quick advert break again, where another special guest will join us to talk through section 3 of the draw, which is another very, very interesting one. We will see you in just a couple of minutes.
Power World Darts Championships.
Good time to sit down now.
Welcome back, everybody. I've thrown the last section of my script on the floor. I've been peeling pages off. We're joined once again this time to look at section 3 of the... What?
This is just an interview. Read the script.
I'll read the script in a minute.
This is just a
We're
chat
having a
with
break.
Thomas.
We're having a break. We're having a little break from predicting, ladies and gentlemen. We are joined by, and it's brilliant for me because finally we've got another northerner involved because there's a lot of southern voices tonight, and it's lovely to have a northern voice on the stream. But we're joined by Mr. Tom Sykes. Tom, how are you?
Yeah, I'm really good, yeah.
Good stuff. We've seen an awful lot of you recently. Those that tune into the live lounge or the live league, what are we calling it?
Super Series.
Super
Come on,
Series.
man.
It's changed every well. There's a live lounge down there. I don't want to discuss it. We've seen you in another live lounge very recently. Darts-wise, Tom, well, I think those that tune in know, but how are things going for you at the minute, darts-wise?
Yeah, it's good. I'm playing really well, and obviously I lost out at the weekend, but yeah, the darts at the minute are going really well, and I'm enjoying myself.
It's been a bit of a breakthrough year for yourself, hasn't it? That final against Scott earlier to start the year, another final in Super Series this year, signed with a manufacturer, sponsors coming out your backside. Every week you're changing something on that. How was that change from last year to the position that you're in now?
Yeah, it's unreal from last year. Last year I didn't have anything. I signed with my manager at the beginning of this year, and my game just got up and up since then. Obviously the sponsors help, my manager helps, my missus helps with all the bookings and things, and I just get to concentrate on playing darts, and it's a lot. It takes a lot off my shoulders, so it's helped me.
Yeah, obviously looking ahead to January, Q School definitely on the cards. How are you feeling about heading there?
Yeah, I'm confident. Obviously, I've had a lot of good results this year, and on the modus especially. But finally the Challenge Tour, so I feel like my form is good enough to be competing up there at Q School. So we'll see how it goes.
Are you feeling a bit of expectation on your shoulders heading into Q School? Because we've seen the likes of Daryl Pilgrim perform really, really well in Portsmouth and go into Q School and be under a lot of pressure from a lot of people going, well, he's absolutely nailed on to go and get a card. Are you feeling similar at the moment?
Yeah, a little bit. I've seen a few people on Facebook saying, like on Facebook and Twitter and stuff, and like saying that I'm going to get a card and stuff, but I try to keep away from sort of that stuff when people start talking about tour cards and who's the best player here and there, and I try and keep away from that stuff because obviously, like you say, I'm putting a lot of pressure on myself, and I don't really need that.
Because you've come such a long way in a year, do you feel like you're ready to jump straight onto tour and make an impact, or is it a case of if you get there, bonus, but actually if not, there's still going to be opportunities for you in Portsmouth via the ADC, maybe through another crack at the Challenge Tour this year?
Yeah, for me, I've already said this already. I've had conversations with my manager, and I've had conversations with everyone, and everyone that's asked me this question, I've said the same thing. I said my goal next year is to play the Pro Tour, whether that's, if I get my tour card in January, absolutely fantastic, I can play for 2 years. If not, to be high enough in the Challenge Tour to get at least a couple of weeks there maybe, or a couple of weekends there, and just to see where my game's at. Obviously, I know I'm playing well enough to live with most of the players that are in there. It's just the consistency for me now, and getting the consistency right, and hopefully I can get there at least once this year, if not all year, with tour cards.
Just thinking about what goes into that, Tom. Anyone that saw me having a chuck earlier on today, I'm very much a non-dart player. In order,
your 180 that were left in board, then.
That was not my 180 left in the board. No.
That was the cat.
The cat beat me 3-2 earlier on today.
You didn't win 2 legs.
What does, in terms of the level that you're playing at the minute? Obviously, you've got lots of darts going on. You've hopefully got lots of darts coming up. What does that look like? sort of across the week for you? What goes into that in terms of practice and time spent on the board? Are you playing locally? Are you getting out and about and playing, or is it like set up dartboard in the house so many hours a day? What's that made up of to get this?
It's a bit of everything, to be fair. I play a bit of local league as well. I play in the charity league and vaults and stuff on a Wednesday night. Local competitions on a weekend, but I try and practice as much as I can. Obviously, I still work full time as well, which doesn't help. But you've got to balance it out as well as you can. And I feel like I'm doing all right for the situation that I'm in at the minute. Obviously, I want to go pro eventually and just do darts full time, but it's not always that easy, is it?
No, absolutely not.
Obviously, I don't really practice at home. I mean, I've just moved into a new house with Mrs. So I've got a darts room getting set up at the minute as we speak. But yeah, hopefully I can get a lot of hours in when I'm not playing local stuff, and hopefully crack on fully for Q School in January.
Tom, do you look at Connor Scott and Wesley Placier, what they've done through not having to go to Q School, that if you weren't to get your card next year, you could go and do damage without one?
That's the plan. Like I say, obviously I want to play on the Pro Tour next year, and if I'm unlucky enough to miss out next year, I want to play on the Pro Tour. So for me next year, I didn't have to do any of the Pro Tour, the Challenge Tours this year. I think I did 2 weekends, I think, out of the whole ones that were there. So next year for me, it's about hitting it hard, even if I lose, even if I don't get my tour card, and doing all the challenge tours, all the ADC stuff, all the stuff where I'm going to be playing at a high level all the time to get where I want to be.
Have you put particular focus on any other events as well, given that there is a lot of darts we played? Obviously, we've just been discussing Super Series for next year. There's been a few changes to that schedule. We've got things like the UK Open qualifiers that have changed a lot. There's the Winmar World Masters where there's going to be opportunities for amateurs to play in as well. Is there any of those that you've put particular focus on, or is it take what comes to you?
No, obviously I'm going to do whatever I can do. My work, thankfully, has been really, really good with giving me time off for the Super Series and stuff. So hopefully, if they continue to do that, I can continue to do whatever I want and just get involved with everything. Really, that's the main goal, and hopefully qualify for everything.
Yeah, I mean, we've avoided it up until now. We've got to talk about Saturday night, unfortunately, mate.
I don't want to talk about it. Can we just talk about the first 2 legs?
Is it a case of taking the positives from a run to yet another Champions Night final at the Super Series, which is incredibly difficult to do? You've got to win a week just to get there, then get through an even tougher field to put yourself into that Saturday position all the way to the final, or is it a case of 3 days on, you're still kicking yourself just that little bit after the result?
Yeah, well, the week was unbelievable, weren't it? The people that were in it, like you say, 4 people have qualified for Ali Pally, so it's never going to be easy, is it?
Plus multiple champions from before, Harrison, Scott.
You've got Scott and Andreas. You've got 4 players that have qualified for Ali Pally this year, and then little old me sat there at the back. But it were always going to be hard. But I got into Group B in the last game. And then I scraped through Group B very more dramatically by winning the last game, and I pretty much scraped through the group in finals night as well. But sometimes you need that luck in this game, and I managed to get to the final in the end, and unfortunately come up short. But it is what it is. Go win.
Going full circle, you mentioned that scraping through the group, however you want to say it. Does that give you a bit of confidence heading into your targets in next year, that actually you don't feel like you've played your best? Because your A game is so explosive that actually, because you are winning with your B game, you're more equipped to make that step up in 2025.
Yeah, I feel like it's more about just getting that consistency right for me now. Obviously I've got, like you say, the A game's there when it's there, but it's not there all the time, and that's what you need to be one of the top players in the world. So if I can polish that up, and if my B game needs to be a bit higher, then that's the thing that I'm practicing on. It's not the A game that needs to be polished up, it's more the B game than anything.
What does your Christmas then look like ahead of Q School? A few weeks, obviously the darts is going to be on heavily. We've just finished the Lakeside World Champs, PDC's on. Is it a case of get that on the telly and have a chuck, or?
Yeah, that's mainly what's going to happen. It's just going to be darts on the TV and practicing with as many people as I can. I've got quite a few good players around where I live, so...
Yorkshire's not shy of
it's
a
not
few
shy- it's
decent
not shy-
dart players, is it?
not shy of a
County
few
wise,
decent players,
ridiculous.
So yeah, that's it. I'm just going to try and get as much practice in as I can for Q School, and hopefully we'll see what happens at Q School.
Well, I'm going to say all the best for that. I've spent a lot of time here in Portsmouth, and I don't want to see you there again, basically, as rude as that is. I think you're ready. Like, it's one of them, good luck, hope we don't see you again, but it's for the right reasons. But yeah, all the best.
Thank you.
Yeah, Tom, thank you so much for coming down and joining us. Really appreciate you. I drove down the M1 today. I know it's not a pleasant drive, so thank you very much for coming and joining us here at the Prince of Wales in Ilkeston for the live lounge live. We're going to have another quick ad break now, where when we come back we will actually this time be reviewing section 3 of the 2025 Paddy Power Darts World Championships. We will once again have another person far more famous than the three of us sat in this chair.
Well, someone's more famous
maybe
than me.
not than the famous Mr. Phil
was gonna
Vars.
say,
of
come on,
course.
I've got my own title.
And if we were technically better, folks, we would have the clip to cut in right now. But unfortunately, we were still trying to find the right end of a HDMI cable 15 minutes before we off. Spoiler alert: they're both the same. we hadn't worked that out. Folks, we'll see you in a couple of minutes. Thank you very, very much indeed. Please do me a favour as well and share it. I've literally messaged some people and said, put this in the family chat. You've all got a WhatsApp group. Put it in the family chat. Get everybody involved. Darts is... the best bit of darts is coming up very, very shortly. And we're here very, very soon to talk about it some more. We'll see you in a couple of minutes. Thank you very much. Welcome back, folks, to the Live Lounge Live from the Prince of Wales pub in Ilkeston, where we are once again joined by the landlord. Mr. Chris Mason has come and joined us to review Section 3 of the 2025 Paddy Power Darts World
I'm going to jump in
Championships.
there, Dan. I'm jumping in because this is the section I think it happens.
I thought you were going to step in for a moment
Are you
there, Chris.
asking me to step in?
Get me out of here, wrestling and out there.
This is the section I think it happens. The Paddy Power Big 9 Darter, the offer that they're at Paddy Power doing is absolutely incredible. £180,000 per 9 darter. 60 for the player, 60 for a fan in the audience, but their name has to be Phil Bars, I'm told. I don't know where that's come from. And £60,000 to prostate cancer as well for every 9 darter hitting. And I'm looking at this section, and I think this is the one we get at least one. Because the pace of the players and the form they're in, I think this is the one that could cost Paddy Power a lot of money, but great for the fans, the players, and cancer.
And not Village Hotels, because he's in a different section.
I was having a quick run through the draw, and I'll put my hands up. If I was going to pick a section with a 9 darter in it, for me, this wouldn't be it. So I'm
I like the look of
I'm intrigued.
Smith, Dobie, Rock, and everyone like that.
Well, Michael Smith's a very good place to start because we'll carry on the format that seems to be somewhat working, and we'll have a look at these in little sections where we'll look at the first round and second round draws together. Top one up there, Kevin Dukes and Noah Lynn van Leuven. The winner will play Michael Smith. Now, Phil, is this second round? Are Kevin Dukes or Noah Lynn going to be on the receiving end of this 9-darter, do you think?
Well, possibly, but remember, Kevin Dukes caused Michael Smith all kinds of problems when he returned. Michael Smith was in a world of trouble in round 2 when he tried to defend his title. So, look, I think Dukes beats Noah Lynn. I think Noah Lynn will play well, but I like what I've seen from Kevin Dukes at the moment. I think he's
a player I'm expecting very much like a Mike DeDecker to have a real breakthrough year.
And he hits a bucket load of 180s as well. He's a massive 180 hitter. So I don't think the 9 would come against Noah Lynn, but the pace and the way they gel, I could certainly see a potential 9 between Dukes and Michael Smith.
Michael Smith, yeah, because that rhythm is going to be beautiful. It's 100%. Going to be like practicing, and they're just going to be going around and around and around. And yeah, I'm with you. I certainly wouldn't be shocked. I think Michael Smith's got it's a big tournament for Michael Smith. He's got he's got a chunk of money to defend, potentially in terms of his ranking. That's going to cause him some anxiety.
Oh, 100% easy.
Because without a run year, I know we've been talking about Premier League, but if he did, for example, go out to Kevin Dukes,
he's not in the mix.
He's not in the mix, is he?
Does anybody have Noah Lynn getting past Kevin Dukes, or are we all fairly comfortable that?
I think Noah Lynn will play well, but I think Dukes will have too much.
Yeah.
I tend to agree. The next little section I think is quite interesting because I think we've got a mixture of players that are probably way off where they would expect to be in terms of form and what we've seen from them in the past. Richard Veenstra against Alexis Toyola, the winner playing Christoph Ratajski, who isn't the Christoph Ratajski that we saw make a match play semi-final. You know,
I think he's a player that's just turned the corner for me. I think there's been signs and indications, and when you sort of dig a little bit deeper in the numbers, you know, he did go off the ball for a while, and he's the kind of guy who's just, you know, he's going to average 95, 96. He's going to be 35 to 40% on his doubles, and he's going to cause you dramas if you're not absolutely on it. And Veenstra for me just hasn't done enough to get the better of Ratajski. I expect Veenstra to beat Alexis, and then I expect Ratajski to be playing Michael Smith in round 3.
Phil?
I don't disagree. Ratajski, we've seen, there's been glimpses that he's just getting back to somewhere where he expects to be.
Absolutely.
Jack, anything different?
I still got anxiety from you saying welcome back to the live lounge, and in my head I went, from Portsmouth! It's done me in. I like Toilo. His average has been very, very good on the Asian Tour again. He's another one that we need to see more of. Veenstra's so hit and miss, isn't he? Like, he's a player that you look at from not the glory days of Lakeside, but the early 2010s going, excellent operator, probably should do more. Move to the PDC, excellent operator, probably should do more. Let's not forget he's one of the only players to beat, he's not Littler at the WF World Champs. That 100 and something average, superb player.
Do you think he stayed too long?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. I think he should have made the move earlier. I think he's paying the price for not doing that now.
I completely agree.
100%. But I don't think he gets past Ratajski now. I think we're all pretty similar at that point.
I think, with the greatest of respect to Stephen Burton and Alexander Merckx, I don't think Chris Dobie will have been too disappointed with this draw. And I think as we've looked at seeds going down, Chris Dobie, who is a man who, let's be honest, biggest Chris Dobie fan going here, but I might have mentioned it once or twice. But I think Chris will have been very pleased when he saw this draw, and he is a man who needs to just play his way back into some form on the TV.
And let's not forget, last year he was absolutely fabulous, wasn't he? He played some beautiful darts, and all but just one of the most remarkable performances from Rob Cross. Chris Dobie, who would have, you know, he looked nailed on to potentially win the whole tournament. He was playing just incredibly well, and I think he'll use that as a bit of confidence. He seems to play well there. He played well there 12 months ago, and I don't think either of Alexander Merckx or Stephen Burton will cause him too much trouble.
I've been disappointed with Merckx. When we saw him win that week at the Super Series, he looked a real player. But he's not really. We kicked on. Yes, we saw him win was it a Challenge Tour 18 months ago. But I've been disappointed with him. I was expecting a lot more, and I was expecting him to go and join that Dutch ranks on tour. And really,
is that the action issue though? Because you look at people like Danny Jansen, who's so hit and miss. Merckx has got quite a unique action in the way that he sets the dart and then release it. And actually, we're probably seeing that more and more as we go on. We're going right. Well, this Dutchman needs to kick on, then this Dutchman needs to kick on. And actually, you look at even Kevin Duke's action. It's not as mechanically sound as others. Dirks is pretty solid. Deswan's broke down. He'll be the first to admit that with his wrist. Like, we've seen a whole batch of talented Dutchmen breach the edges of the sport, and actually when we want more from them, we're not getting it.
But the ones that have dominated, whether it be Dev Tour or Challenge Tour, they're the ones that have gone on to make progression. I don't think. And it all goes back to my idea of Q School. I think Q School's too much of a lottery. I think it should be based off a season.
Well, you've got a year's worth of rankings.
Yeah, and a year's worth of data to work with, rather than maybe having a good few days at Q School. And I think if they did it that way, I think you'd see more players that would hold their card in excess of the 2-year pass that they get, and really develop as players. I think a lot of them go to or get their card too early. Connor Scott was a perfect example. When Connor got his card, I said to listen, his manager is a really good pal of mine. I said, mate, it's too early. You should have another year at Modus, another year on the WDF. Fortunately, it's actually worked out.
Eventually, it's come full circle. He's got back there.
I mean, we mapped out Connor's year, and as well, I sat there on Live Lounge not too long after Christmas and went, this is exactly what Connor's doing. He's going to pick off the high-ranking WDF events, get himself in that. He'll go and play Challenge Tour, he'll do all right at the Super Series, and he'll put himself in a position at the back end of the year where he has choices.
Yes.
And he's done all of it, and he's absolutely flying.
Yeah.
So we go from a seed who can probably consider themselves quite fortunate, and is Josh Rock in exactly the same position? Is he going to be looking at that draw and thinking, well, I've got Sedlacek or Reece Griffin, and you know, is Josh Rock another seed who's thinking, this is an opportunity. I've got a mulligan. I can go straight through these two players and get into the tournament.
I think Dobie will have the odd concern about Merckx's A game should he come through beat Stephen Burton. I think Josh Rock has absolutely nothing to worry about here. Sedlacek has been okay without being amazing, and Reece Griffin is one of the tour card holders this year that you look at and go, was he ready? Because he's not come on and smashed anybody up. He's not gone semi-final, final, Pro Tour regularly enough if he's done it at all, sort of thing. Like, Josh Rock will be absolutely rubbing his hands with this one. The only worry he'll have to think is, will Carroll slow him down a bit if it's Carroll? Because Josh is one who loves to get around that stage.
Yeah. He loves a nice,
watching Josh play.
Yeah, he loves a nice quick tempo. And when you look at the games he loses, it's usually against the deliberate guys that he struggles to get used to that tempo. But listen, he's another evolving player. He's earning while he's learning, and he's far from the finished article. And I don't know whether it may be this year or next year or the year after, but Josh Rock has the potential to win majors.
100%.
Moving on just again, and this, we've got another case where we've got one of these first round players where if we were having this discussion 6 months ago, 9 months ago, 12 months ago, it's a very different discussion because we've recently seen a resurgence, the renaissance, if you will, of Mickey Mansell. Does it continue? Do we see more Mickey Mansell upsets, do we think?
Yeah, tomorrow he's some player, isn't he? He's got a serious game. This will all come down to experience. And again, they're both quite deliberate. This is a tough one to go. I'm sure the bookers would make Mickey Mansell, especially again recency bias, they'll make him a favourite, but this is far from a simple game.
Was it Van Veen that Gotto did a number on last year's Worlds, and the maximums he hit was literally incredible. So,
and that's what's going to keep him in that game.
His scoring power.
It's whether he can,
can he produce that against someone who's so deliberate?
Exactly,
The worry here, well, not the worry, but the level here perhaps, is you said this one comes down to experience. Mickey's had a great year, but his experience at the Ali Pali is not great.
No.
Let's not forget that's where the DRA infamously dropped him that fine. Like, you
for
can
not playing to his ability.
We can argue with the
I should
final
have been
day,
fined
but he's
every
still
tournament,
got that in the back of his mind when he
Yeah.
walks through those doors, doesn't he? That he's either got to go and be unbelievable, or he's got to do something different in his preparation so he doesn't end up in that situation
Yeah.
again. Like,
Don't over practice.
don't go in the fan zone. Sponsor. But you get what I'm saying. He's still got that thought to get right in this venue.
Is this the moment to mention the new partnership with Foster's? It probably isn't, is it? We should probably...
No, because they're not on the bar.
Yeah,
They're not on the bar, so they don't get
We
mentioned.
don't
Yeah.
sell that stuff.
You might want to get in touch. They might do you a decent price. They do, yeah.
Pound a pint, I still wouldn't sell it.
The next
Not
little...
unless they're sponsoring the show. It's a great idea.
I still haven't got a case of some. For years I've been peddling this stuff. Years I've been peddling. No one sent me out so much as a free bottle.
It's not from New Zealand, mate. Anything in a bottle's got to come from New Zealand.
We've got, so the next one. Actually, personally, I think this is. I know we have seen an uplifting form from Daryl Gurney, but I think each one of this little cluster here of Florian Hemkel, Jeffrey Deswan, winner plays Daryl Gurney. I think any one of them on their day has the game to do massive business against the others. I think it's a bit of a lottery, this section. Or did anyone disagree, or do you think?
No, listen, when Florian first came along, another player that's come from another sport, handball
player.
He was remarkable in his first couple of years, and then sort of got found out. But he's quite an intimidating player, but I don't think Jeffrey Deswan is the kind of player that would be affected by that. But
Well, definitely don't think Darryl is either. If you get through that one.
No, Daryl would actually relish that opportunity.
Angry Darryl.
Yeah, to get angry Daryl back. Yeah, I don't think Hempel or Deswan bothered Daryl Gurney at all.
I think Hempel
I'm not
beats
sure many in that
Deswan.
section do, to be honest.
No.
Really?
I think Hempel beats Deswan, but then loses to Gurney.
Yeah.
Go.
Yeah, I'll go with that.
Yep. Clean sweep.
Consensus. This again, another really interesting little cluster here. I think.
No, I want to see Kim Ibris against Gezi Price, because that might be what Gezi needs. Is something to
A battle.
a fire underneath him, and someone who will give it to him, and he can go back and forth with. I think that's what's missing with Gezi's game right now.
I completely agree, but I think the form of Kim Hybrich fluctuates too high and low, and Keane Barry has a game in him where he could completely upset that party, couldn't he?
But he also has scar tissue at Alexandra Palace.
Correct.
He was horrific on that stage. I know it was freezing cold in there, and he took one of those throws that you have to open the fingers quick, and he couldn't. But that still plays on your mind.
Yeah.
It is the thing. Going back there, we've seen Ali Pali ruin people, ruin good players as well, because their game just never recovers from it. And we all bigged up Keane, and look, he's got the ability. There's no question about that. But has he developed and kicked on to the player I thought he was going to be? No, for me, he hasn't.
No, I'm not concerned for Keane, but if people around his age group and ability, and people that broke onto the tour at a similar time to him, keep developing at the rate they are, he's either going to get left massively behind or dropped off the tour.
Yeah, I agree. I think Price beats both of them.
I don't. I think Kim gets it. Gezi's saying all the right things, but he doesn't have all the right results underneath his belt. And if Kim gets going and agitates him just a little bit in the wrong way, I think we could see Kim beat Gezi.
It's a big shout. I think it's a much closer game than probably people would think, because they listen, when Kim gets beat, he usually gets beat 6-5 on the Pro Tour. I don't think there's a player that gets beat more or edged out in matches more than Kim Ibris. I think he causes Gezi some drama, but I think Gezi may just about get over the line.
I think either way, we've got some really interesting games in that little cluster. I think we've got some good
Vessel
potential.
Nyman against Joe Cullen that's probably the worst draw for Joe Cullen.
Well, that's where I was coming to. Is
I agree, but also it could be the best one for him, because he knows.
It could be home for Christmas.
Well, like Chris Reed.
But also he knows from the moment that draw was done, his head had to be on, because they will be expecting Wessel to beat Corralison 3-0, job done, and set up that tie. And I just think that may have focused Joe. Look, I still think Wessel will be favourite.
Listen, I look at similar to Kim Ibris against Gezi Price. It might be, you're right, it's something that will make you mentally switched on. And Joe knows that if he's anything below 90% of his best,
he's losing.
Vessel
He's getting beat,
Nyman's
And I go back to the match play. I can't remember who he beat in round one, but everyone, I think it might have been Dobie.
Yeah.
Everyone said Dobie was going to batter Cullen, the form they were in. and Dobie found Callum found something, and I think it might be the same here, that he just finds his A game. And you look at some of the games he's had on this Alexandra Palace stage, there's been some incredible ones. So he's one that goes there and normally plays well.
Scar tissue from the incredible games though, because they don't normally go in his favour.
I agree with that, but at least
that match play against Gary as well. Like,
I think he just has to. I think at the minute
he keeps losing them types of games.
I just think he has too much to find at the minute. I think if Joe put 10-15% on the game we've seen from him lately, he still gets beat by Wessel Nyman. I think he can play himself back into some form. But where we've looked at other seeds, you know, Josh Rock, Chris Dobie, they've all got that time almost. But I don't think Joe in that game, if he plays Wessel Nyman, he's going to have time in the game to play himself in.
And where is it? You've got to look at his ranking, the pressure on that as well.
Wessel's just going to get at him.
Joe needs to find something.
Huge for him.
Yeah.
He's good. So I mean,
and that might be the whole scenario, like the perfect storm. That might be it. But listen, if Wessel Nyman was playing anybody, you've got your hands full.
I'm happy to go straight in with seeds in danger in that round. I think it follows on. I don't think you can make a case. I mean, you might be able to. I challenge you to make a case for any seed in bigger danger than Joe Cullen in that section.
Totally agree.
yeah.
No, I agree that he is the obvious one, but like you said earlier when we looked at section 2, Michael Smith is in danger. I'm not saying he loses, but Kevin Dukes is a tough test for him.
And Michael's under a mountain of pressure.
Exactly, the pressure that goes with it. We saw Michael last year when he was defending the title, didn't look comfortable, and now he's defending the prize money. Will it be the same? Look, do I think he'll beat Kevin Dukes? Yes. But I also think that Dukes will push him like he did last year.
Well, with that little section there, with potentially, you know, Krzysztof Ratajski as the seed as the next game through that. If we've been, I think we've all been in more than the other sections so far, a bit seed heavy in our predictions. I think we all seem to agree the seeds move through quite comfortably.
Yeah.
Is there someone that stands out within that first round section that you think can? Is Kevin Dukes the only one really with the where you think he can do 2-3 games? So I've predicted him over the seed anyway.
But Wessel could beat Joe, and it wouldn't surprise me if we went on to beat Gezi or Kim either.
Right now, like if you say him right now on the evidence that we've got from this year, you would have to.
Yeah.
You'd have, listen, it may be a different story when they turn up. It's the Worlds.
Exactly.
Magic happens
Yeah.
at Ali Pali, and maybe they can find that extra 10-15% because if you look at Gezi, he needs to find something. Joe needs to find something. I think Daryl, out of that bottom section, is the one that looks more likely. Johnny's been a bit hit and miss, up and down. Now that top half, we've seen something from all of them this year that makes you think, maybe one of them can get on a bit of a run. But of course, only one of them can get through that section.
Well, Chris, I know you like to get in early with these ones. So quarter-finalists in this one, who beats who in the quarter-final, do you think, in this section of the draw?
I think Dobie plays Wessel Nyman.
Well, I've got it exactly the same, and I've got heart over head Chris Dobie winning. Where are you nailing your flag on that one?
I'd go 55% Dobie, 45% Nyman, just because of his knowledge, and he's been there. He knows what it's like to win great games. He knows what it's like to take on great players and lose great games. But I just think he might have just a little bit too much knowledge, and I think the inexperience of Wessel Nyman maybe is undoing.
Phil?
I'm going different. I think this is the section that opens up. Josh Rock beats Gerwin Price.
Wow, I mean that's a. If it happens, we'll have seen some superb games. Yeah. If that, we'll have been very entertained if that happens. Go.
Chris Dobie beats Daryl Gurney for me. I like what I'm seeing from Super Chin. I think this section of draws open up nicely. Gezi's saying all the right things, but I'm not sure if he can put it together long enough in that part of the draw. And for me, Dobie's the standout in that top half of the draw at the minute.
Agreed.
Lovely stuff, well, folks. That brings to a conclusion section 3. We're rattling through. We've only got one more section to talk about. We might talk about section 3 next. We might talk about something, or section 4 next. We might talk about something else. I haven't decided yet.
Well, you're in the chair. So
when I say I haven't decided, I've got 3 bits of paper. I'm not sure which one fits in which order. So
we'll have another interview.
Whilst we have an advert break, I'll put my pieces of paper in order, and we will be back with you in a couple of minutes.
Welcome back to the Live Lounge Live, everyone here at the Prince of Wales in Ilkeston. We've been danned off for 5 minutes. We've had enough of him chucking paperwork everywhere, so I've taken over the hot seat for this one. And again, we've got two guests this time joining us. It is Henry Coates and Jamie Caven. Gentlemen, welcome to the Live Lounge Live.
Nice, thank you. Nice to be here.
Look, obviously, youth darts is very much at the forefront of the whole game at the moment, mainly because of a certain lad that was sat in that seat last year talking about J2Os. But look, all focus on the youth. Henry, what a breakthrough year it's been, winning on the development tour. And how much are you enjoying the game right now?
Yeah, I've played the best I've been playing for, well, that I've ever played at the minute. So, yeah, I'm enjoying it the best I have. So, I can't complain at how I've been playing, and the results are now coming with it.
How much does a former teammate of yours, Luke, and the season that he's had inspire you to kick on and do what you're doing at the minute?
Yeah, it pushes me to the best that I can. Shows this year with winning a development tour as well that I am progressive as well. I didn't think within this first 4 seasons that I'd win one, but I have now, and hopefully from next year I can kick on and hopefully win more.
Well, obviously, Jamie, he's come through your academy, so you must be immensely proud of what Henry's done. But not just that, the whole youth in general, you're seeing it firsthand that the sport is going in a completely new direction at the moment.
100%. I think, what people don't see, they don't watch behind the scenes and see the youth set up the way it's come through with all academies across the country and across Europe, across the world really, not just JDC, but, all academies in general. That, I think when we look at it down the line, Luke's kind of like the tip of the iceberg. They don't see the rest of it. Henry's prime example, he came to us at 8 years old, and now he's 10 years ago, so he's 18 now, winning development tours, winning local events, playing really well, playing exhibitions as well. I think, it's the world's an oyster for a lot of these kids, It's really good.
It's interesting that you say that, because it's a very different path to what yourself and myself went down as a kid. We were youngsters playing, and we were just thrust into it, go and play in this, go and play in that, and you were just put into open comps and pubs. So I was playing at 13, 14, where now kids have got safe havens that they can play in and mature as players, and they're not rushed. It's all at their own leisure, and they move on as and when they're ready.
Yeah, that's right, because they're all at a different level as well. So it's kind of like you don't have to be a specific level to play in an academy. And I think when the time came, it's like 11 years ago now, when Steve Brown initially, he had his own academy first and foremost, and we had that first chat where he said, do you fancy running one in your area, because nobody knows who Steve Brown is there. I thought, when I was a kid, like you just said there was nothing like that for me as a young lad. I was playing in a pub with my dad.
For me, and I'm not. There's a big age gap, but not too much.
But yeah, you're right. That's the thing now. All these kids can play it with freedom. There's loads of academies all over the place. Whether they're, like I say, whether they're JDC or not, they've still got that facility to be able to play with free will.
Henry, and for you, obviously, this time last year, we weren't expecting what had happened, but as a youngster, has the expectation on your shoulders changed? Not from yourself, but from other people, being like everyone of a certain age is now compared to Luke Littler. Are you feeling that extra pressure or not?
Not really. When in my last 4 years in the JDC, I finished top of the order of merit, and then the next year after that I didn't do as well, but then I feel like now that Luke has gone and done what he's done, I feel like the pressure has slightly eased off myself, but then I feel like I've sort of got more eyes watching the youth darts and that, so but I just feel now that I can go and do what I do, and I can show other people what I can prove myself to be.
Is it a case of just being comfortable at the pace that you're growing and developing at? Because we've seen people like Luke be so explosive when they hit the tour, but actually we're now looking at, is there a little bit of pressure coming from the even younger? Archie South, WDF champion last week, 15 years old, fantastic. Lex Payshauser from Belgium, 13 years old. Is it you're still relaxed and comfortable enough to do it in your own time, or are you looking at it going, actually I've got to make that jump pretty soon, because if I don't get on there, these kids are going to be there not long afterwards and they're going to be taking these opportunities straight away?
Yeah, so I played Archie about 2 years ago now at Bridlington in the boys WDS competition there, and pretty sure he beat me like 3-1 or something like that with like a 98 average then. So it was clear to me that he was going to be good. Obviously, I've not seen as much from that Belgian lad, but I do feel that he is one of the better youth players. But I mean, anyone on the development tour can beat anyone, and anyone can have a really good game, and anyone can have a bad game. So
I think when we look at it in the context of it, you know, the development tour doesn't start till he's 16, so these kids that are like 13, 14, 15, they've still got time to wait before they can play Dev Tour. But the level has grown so much from an even younger age than the 16s, etc. that we're talking about, you know, that you need to be to play Dev Tour.
This is for both of you, and I understand that, Jamie, you're in a bit of a situation here, so you might not be able to answer it.
Okay.
The Dev Tour and the tour card holder issue, it comes up all over the place on social media, that I think most people would agree that once you've got that tour card, you are developed, and we're seeing at the upper end of it being dominated by tour card holders. Do you, this is like your opinion as an academy director, do you see it's an issue? And for you, Henry, as well, do you like them being there, or would you like them not to be there?
Yeah, from my side, I like him being there.
Well, he's beaten them all recently. It doesn't matter who's there.
I think it kind of, certainly if you're challenging for events, it's good because you're getting the you're getting the sort of like the experience of playing the better players that have kind of got the tour card, so you want to pick yourselves. I think you played Wessel 3 or 4 times and beaten 2 or 3 of those 4, so I think in that sense it sort of benefits you, but the younger kids that are just coming in, maybe it's a bit much, so there's kind of pros and cons with it, I think. Whether it's right or wrong, I don't really know as such, because some could argue they're still not developed even though they've got a tour card. Maybe the age, you know, the cut-off maybe should be changed. I don't know, we'll have to see.
Yeah, it's just an interesting one because it comes up all the time, and I agree with you, like the guys at the top end, that's fine because that's helping them, but if you're 16, fresh off the JDC, the last thing you want is to run into Wessel Nyman, Keane Barry, Nico Springer, round 1, because you're going to get bashed up and you're not going to learn anything from that. It's alright saying we'll just get better, but it's not as simple as that, because if you get smashed 5-0 in the manner it could happen, that could be damaging long term.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, like I say, there's definitely an argument for it. So it's kind of like trying to find the right medium. You know, the balance has got to be right, hasn't it, for everybody? So, you know, there's, like I say, there's pros and cons for both. You know, for it being changed, I guess.
And how much has Luke inspired you to get to this World Championship? Because he's shown everyone that the blueprint has been rewritten. Is that now the goal, to get to that Alexandra Palace stage?
Yeah, it is one of my goals. But I mean, from the development tour, I have started it. I have qualified for the UK Open through the Order of Merit, which obviously is my first TV competition. So hopefully I can do well there, and then throughout the development tour I can hopefully be able to push on and try and hit the target of getting to Ali Pali.
Is that the plan for next year? Is it development tour and focus on growing, or is it we're going to Q School, we're going to have a crack at the Pro Tour if it comes along?
Yeah, so also through the Order of Merit, I've got the final stage of Q School, so that's all paid for, so that's not a worry of mine. So I've got that to look forward to in January, and then UK Open at the end of February. So it is mainly just going to be development tour and challenge tour. Obviously depending if I can get my tour card or not.
And Jamie, I don't want to embarrass him, but how good can this boy be before we let you go?
He's very good. I've seen him more often than not away from sort of playing in big events and stuff, and he's all right. So any success he has, I take full credit.
Of course, why wouldn't you?
As his county rep for the last 5 years, I'm taking just as much credit.
When I was kind of Henry's age, I was probably better. I don't want to blow my own trumpet, but no, he's got the world at his feet, really, like a lot of the other kids have. You know, like I say, tip of the iceberg with Luke. I still think there's a lot more to come through, you know, in the next few years, so we'll wait and see.
Well, Jamie, Henry, thank you very much for joining us here at the Live Lounge Live, mate. It's an absolute pleasure to pick your brains, as always. Everyone, we are going to grab a quick break, but we are coming back for what is going to be a blockbuster Section 4 of this draw. Join us after the break.
Welcome back, folks. I'm back in the seat again. I think maybe because I've only got 2 bits of paper left, I can keep one in my left hand and one in my right hand, and I might be able to keep a little bit more organised. We are rapidly drawing through towards a conclusion of our predictions for the 2025 Paddy Power Darts World Championships. We are now at section 4. We're joined once again by Matt Edgar. We're going to continue in the same format. We've already had a little bit of a chat with Matt, so we will probably get in thick and fast to predicting what we think is going to happen.
Is there something wrong with your eyesight, by the way? Like, that is... You can't
Barzy
see
broke
this.
it. Barzy broke the technology,
Yes,
unsurprisingly.
but there's like 8 games on here. It's going to take me ages to scroll through them all.
I'm desperately trying to zoom out. There we
Matt's
are.
got you covered, Matt.
There we
I
go.
could see them from back there.
It was all working fine, and then Phil Barrs sat in my
Look how
seat.
long
and
he's
now-
having to scroll
Having to
to
scroll.
get to the top of like
We've got
one section
individual
of the
draws.
I was trying to step in.
James Hurrell will play.
Yeah, he's tried to step into Christmas and he's zoomed into Christmas is what's happened. It's going to be a bit boring talking to Phil Barrs, I think, for this first game. So I'll come to you first, Matt. Can James Hurrell or Jim Long pose a threat to Michael Van Gerwen?
I mean, they can, but I don't think they will. I mean, oh, you've got the zoom stuff as well now.
There we go.
James Hurrell, if you talk about the start of the year, James Hurrell was absolutely walking things, and he looked like he was going to make it comfortably. He's ended up sort of stumbling in at the end. Jim Long's been playing well,
Yeah.
and the thing about Jim Long, he's not slow, but he's delivering, and that makes him hard to play over set play. So I do think Jim Long could win that, but I don't think he will reach Van Gerwen.
Jack?
Jim won't thank me for saying this, but I think he's more than capable of pulling off that upset. His A game is fantastic.
Well, when you say the upset, do you mean an upset win over James Hurrell?
No,
or do you
I'm
mean an
talking
upset
about
win
Van
over
Gerwen.
Michael Van Gerwen?
I'm eyeing up a Canadian surprise against Van. I think Jim Long is that good a dart player. I've seen him firsthand at the Super Series multiple times. I've seen him firsthand at the Seniors multiple times. When Jim Long puts it together, he has the game that can put the current version of Michael Van Gerwen under pressure.
Phil
Old
Barrs?
Van Gerwen, 5 years ago, this isn't a debate. No offence to either Jim or James. They don't touch him. But Van Gerwen still just looks so vulnerable.
Would you like to correct him?
No, I agree. I think there are vulnerabilities there. We're seeing it.
Well.
We're seeing it more and more that the gear isn't there when he needs it. However, I will say that this little section of the draw is possibly ideally for him to try and play himself into some form when you've got Gary Anderson on the horizon, spoiler alert. But if you'd have given Michael those sets of fixtures in that order, I think he'd have taken it because he can potentially get some confidence from them. But I agree, And we don't often agree, it's weird, isn't it? But I agree.
I mean, you took me by surprise there. I thought you were going to.
He doesn't talk sensibly normally, so it's not my fault.
I thought you were going to use his own catchphrase on him there.
Stupid. No, but you can't ignore the facts that they're there. Their numbers are there. The performances are there. We've seen it with our own eyes.
The throw's gone.
I've said this phrase. I don't like the dart pointing down, the cup of the hand,
breaking the wrist.
Yeah, that's the issue. And I don't know. I don't know if it can be fixed. I don't know if it's gone too far. Can it be corrected? I don't know. But at the moment, and for me, until he sorts that part of the game out, there's always going to be vulnerabilities.
And he'll feel that. You'll feel the things that aren't going right. You do. If your throw's not there, you feel it, and you feel you're fighting yourself all the time. Then you start trying to work it out, and you're trying to make changes. And maybe that's why he's going further down the rabbit hole rather than recovering from it.
Matt, he's chasing a bit as well, isn't he? Like, let's not forget, like 5 years ago, he was the king. Yeah. Completely untouchable. Gezi come on his patch a bit, Michael Smith. Everywhere else but Ali Pali, Michael Van Gerwen has been the long established king since Phil Taylor disappeared. Ali Pali hasn't been that great for him.
No.
It's weird to say he's only won 3 world titles as a negative. But this man was first dubbed to go on and challenge Phil Taylor's record. It was how many can he get, how close can he get. If you sat here when Van Gerwen won his first world title and said in 2024 he'll still be 2 behind Van Barneveld, you'd have been laughed out the room.
Matt, when we spoke earlier about the many strings to the Matt Edgar bow, and we talked about commentary and we talked about all the other different bits and pieces, you've also done some coaching as well. Thinking about that action of Michael Van Gerwen and where that's at the minute, as a coach, do you look at that as something that you think a player should try and almost ease into and try and become more and more familiar with and adapt to that new throw? Or is it something that if you had a player that you were coaching, would you be trying to get them to iron that out and revert to what you knew worked? How would you approach that?
It's a tricky one because my degree is in sports science. And when I look at this from a sports science point of view, there's so much wrong. Right. But the idea is you need to be as natural and as fluid, because that's where the fluidity comes from. So it's a case of micro adjustments that takes a time and a process to reel it back to where it was, or where it could be, because where it wasn't as good as it could be. And that's, I think, one thing we get wrong quite a lot of the time. Maximising potential isn't always judged on the results that the person gets. You know, even Phil Taylor, 16-time world champion, could he have been an 18-time world champion if he'd have done things slightly differently? So that's coaching. It's about maximising the potential of the person you're working with. And at the moment, he's not maximising potential.
I think we can all agree on that point. Next one, probably a slightly less exciting threesome, I think, as we see Chris Landman and Lockie Lee.
Depends where you go in Amsterdam, I suppose.
Well, Chris Landman might be able to point in the right direction. Chris Landman and Lockie Lee will play each other for the opportunity to meet Brendan Dolan.
Look, Matt's gone.
I just don't know what you've been up to.
I'm attempting to keep the ship on. I'm fighting very hard with this, steering us on a straight trajectory. But it's you know, we might lean into it a little bit later on.
You've been on a night out with Chris Landman, have you, Phil?
Yeah.
You've been on a night out with Chris Landman?
Not recently.
No, he's barred out of everywhere now. He's not allowed back. Chris Landman and Lockie Lee. Is this another opportunity? We've talked about the Asian qualifiers. We've talked about those that have a bit of potential. Do we think Lockie Lee can progress in this tournament? Can he be the breakout Asian Tour player?
He could be, but Chris Landman is one of those players that is very hard to read. That you see him play really well sometimes, and then you think, oh, I fancy him to win this, and he throws in a subpar performance. He's one of those players that you'd never back, because you never know what version you're going to get. If the best version of Chris Landman turns up, I think he wins. However, we don't know if that's going to happen. So I think it's an intriguing tie for that reason.
Do we think either of them bother Brendan Dolan?
Yeah. Dolan's in no form whatsoever at the moment.
Brendan Dolan, to me, though, is the hardest player to play in darts.
He's like the Grim Reaper, isn't he? And I mean that in the nicest possible way. Everyone thinks it's going to be him versus him, and he comes along and just gets rid of seeds and big names.
And he's awkward. 1 minute he's fast, then he's slow, then he's slower.
Nice and friendly in his Christmas shirt, and then his 2 sets up.
Yeah, he's one of the most awkward players to play, by far.
Yeah.
Do you think then that Brendan gets through this? Do you think he beats whoever comes at him?
I would never bet against Brendan Dolan. There's always things that you never take on a certain player, you never go that player, and Brendan Dolan's that for me. Like, I would never sit there and say he's going to win or he's going to lose. I'd just literally go, pass.
Well, I'll be honest, I'm quite thankful he's in the part of the draw that he is, because whatever we say doesn't matter. Well, no one from these 3 are getting out of this quarter, so...
Well, I've already completely got wrong Phil Bowser's prediction in one game in this quarter.
Oh, you're not getting it wrong in this one?
I'm not. There's no chance I'm going 2 for 2.
Gary.
Happy?
Gary.
Doesn't need a detailed
Gary.
Say a bit more.
You've only got to look at... I know they're only exhibitions, but it gives you a guide. The numbers he has been posting, especially the last 2 weekends, have been incredible against established players. It's not against... Dan from the pub.
Last 18 months.
Forget exhibitions, mate. He's got the best running average on the Pro Tour.
But at the weekend, we saw, was it 118 against Dirk, 109 against Raymond. He's posting ridiculous numbers. I think he comes through this comfortably.
Gob, Rashad Sweeting, do we think he's going to pose a threat to Jeffrey de Graaf at all? We've seen great things from de Graaf.
De Graaf's throwing lovely. The worry with Gary is that he's playing too nicely and that everything is opening up so nicely for him. Van Gerwen isn't quite getting there. He's in the nice half of the draw when you look at where the 2 Lukes are. His record at Ali Pali is fantastic. Form brilliant. Not quite converted it to TV. Well, done it once this year in a decent run. And you look at it and go, all of this is set up really, really nicely for Gary Anderson to go and smash people to smithereens at Ali Pali. And then there's that part of you in the back of the head going, but he's let us down so often in the last 2 or 3 years when you just want that one last fairy tale ending from Gary, that somebody like Jeffrey de Graaf might be the one to upset him early doors.
Thoughts, Matt?
Gary don't get caught out at Ali Pali. I mean, Phil, you're there all the time. Gary Anderson will be there before you, and you'll be there when the stage is going on.
So that started today, actually.
I'm going straight after this.
There's a reason we were late setting up. Barzi was there giving Martin a hand.
You know, Gary takes it seriously, doesn't he? He's there, he's practicing. He does, as much as maybe he says he doesn't, he's beating up with people in the players' hotel, and he's practicing the whole time. And he's not going to get caught cold.
2 weeks solid of exhibitions as well.
He's playing amazing, isn't he, Gary? And the thing is, I look at this section of the draw, and I go, Gary Anderson isn't going to have much problem with players there. But then I think, who would I see in his section where I'd go, they're going to give him a problem?
Luke and Luke.
And they're not there.
I tell you, would have given him a problem. Someone hits a 170 against him.
Do you know what? I've done that before myself.
Really?
Yeah, that was me.
You should have mentioned it.
Yeah.
Wouldn't have managed it if I had Lithuania flag next to his name, would you?
Next up, we've got Jim Williams and Paolo Nebreda. The winner will play Ross Smith. Again, do we just think Seed's going to be a little bit too strong, even though we know the game that I mean, in fairness, both these players have in them. Do we think Ross Smith is just going to have a bit too much?
I'm disappointed in Jim Williams.
I agree.
I think
this time last year, I was looking at Jim Williams going, keep an eye on this guy. This guy's going to go well. He could be a deep run, maybe reach a quarter final. This guy could shock people. And now you're going into this and you're going, he's not got a chance against Ross Smith. 1 year.
Yes. We spoke a little bit earlier about Ryan Searle being so laid back and not wanting to start him. Is Jim Williams the warning for Ryan not to fall into that? Because we've seen Jim in a WDF or BDO World Final, we've seen him come over, we look at him and go, right, this is what you can be. But actually then we spent half the year going, Jim, go to a Pro Tour. Please go and play darts.
He's, from what I hear, I don't know Jim very well, but the stories I hear about Jim are that it is almost hard just to get into it. Do you know, like, when you go to the gym?
No. Yeah. No, Matt, tell me about it.
I should have read the room. I should have looking around.
This is a dance stream, Matt.
And the hardest thing about going to the gym is going through the door, as you can testament, you know. And once you're through the door, you're fine, and you'll train and you do. I think that's Jim Williams, isn't it?
Just getting into a venue, getting into a dartboard.
Yeah. Once he's there, he's fine.
Damon Hetter lives literally next door and still can't get him to practice at times.
We all happy then with the Ross Smith comfortable?
Yeah, I think
moving
Ross is playing
through this
beautifully.
one?
I think he's maybe not this year, but I think he's maybe a year away from a shot on the travelling exhibition. The way the season's opening up as well. Bags of 180s, building a bit more of a personality. I think he's a great player. And he's grown up an awful lot. Like, I worked with Ross in his early days when he was under a different manufacturer, whatever. He was our pro at our varsity event. You've been to our varsity event. Ross was the first pro to ever do that event. And to say that he's grown up a lot between that is a massive understatement.
Matt's still recovering.
Yeah. That's an event.
Well, so was Ross 4 weeks later, but I just don't think he put himself in that position now at this age and this level of his career.
See what you've done, right? Now you've started distractions, and my brain just picks everything up very quickly. Over to the side here that no one can see is a Simon Whitlock shirt from 2011 that he played in the Pro. When did Simon Whitlock ever wear a 2XL? Like that can't...
And maroon.
2XL?
Tall bloke though, isn't he?
But
It's maybe the length that he's going for.
I just don't know what he's doing with the side of the shirt. That must flap around a bit.
Tin it,
Tuck his beard in.
tin it up at the back or something like that. Gathers up at the back, I think. Next we move on to certainly the seed in this little section that everybody loves to discuss when it comes to big television tournaments, because we're going to see Dave Chisnell play the winner of Ricky Evans and Gordon Mathers. And Phil, Dave Chisnell, everybody talks about him whenever there's an event on television, because, well, have we got to the point now where we're going to stop saying sooner or later?
Yeah. And I already might upset the Chizzy fans. I don't trust the action under pressure. I think there's too much scar tissue, and I don't think he wins one.
Matt, for a long time, people would talk about Dave Chisnell, and they would constantly talk about not if but when. Are you now subscribing to that it's not an if anymore?
I think there's a lot of side stories here. I mean, one is Chizzy's ranking. You know, a decent run here, and he's going to go into the Premier League position.
Yeah, he's in a huge position.
And he's someone
ridiculous considering the fact he's not made it past the third round on TV in 2 years.
But it just shows his floor form, doesn't it? How good that is, how strong that is. And he's got an okay section here in regards to going potentially on the run. But he had that issue, didn't he, with his back at the Grand Slam. Did put that to bed recently, but yeah, you can't. He's another one of those players, like I said with Brendan Dolan, where you don't tip them and you don't write them off, and then you've got to look to see what he's up against. And Ricky Evans comes alive on that stage. Gordon Mathers, by the way, has anyone seen the picture?
Looks
of Gordon Mathers?
great.
He's like
Not picture, he was in Portsmouth last. He's been in the country 10 days already. So is Brandon Weenan, who came over for the WF, but Gordon Mathers has been in the country 10 days already.
Again,
a quarter of the size.
I don't mean this horribly. I'm a big lad, as everyone knows. And I remember when he was doing some spotting in Southampton, he was bigger than me. And I don't mean that horribly. And now to see the recent pictures of him is incredible, and he's done an amazing job to get himself back to that.
I stood behind him at KFC when he was at his biggest, and he ordered 20 mini fillets.
My hero.
Mini fillets.
Or as I like to call it, the Dan Simpson.
Snack.
What a tremendous order that got. I tell you what, I've got a long drive home and may do a KFC before I undertake it. And
I've just brought it to your mind now.
yeah, God, it's going to be difficult.
Other
for me
takeaways are available.
Yeah, it's
But
going
if
to be
KFC do want to sponsor us, our DMs are open.
correct. Yeah, absolutely.
And also going to do is give you meal tickets. Or
Pretty
free
much.
gravy.
Oh, gravy.
So we move on to a player who has had an experience of going incredibly deep on the Alexandra Palace stage, but are we convinced that this is the same Gabriel Clemens that made the semi-final?
I think he is. I just think he was quite fortunate that he played steady that year. It just opened up really nicely for him. The fact he was immediately in Premier League conversation that year kind of irked me a bit, because it was a great run, and it was, look at this new market, we can get into Germany, we get. At that point, I still didn't believe he was the best German dart player.
We've got Neil Zonneveld and Robert Owen, though, who both on their day are capable of producing a game that is at least level and potentially beyond what we've seen recently from Clemens.
I think Clements is safe there, really. Robert Owen's probably delighted to be in there, playing a side story as well. But Clements actually is playing side story. He's defending the 100k from a couple of years ago.
Huge defence in the ranking.
He could be out the top 32 himself. So it just shows. I mean, we said that about getting that Premier League conversation going and looking further down. And the Callum Ridds, he got quarterfinals and he came into that. It just shows how heavily considered the World Championship is. And if someone does go on a run in the way that the Premier League conversations going this year, it could be the year they get chucked in. But in regards to that one, I don't think you can look past Clements.
Pace might be a factor again. We bring that up a bit. But Clemens, despite not being the quickest player in the world, is someone who likes to play at a nice rhythm. If somebody's going at him and he's got time to just do his own thing and get to the hockey in his own time, I think he's comfortable. Zonneveld and Rob Owen are both going to be the slower player in that game. They're going to control the pace of it, and that might get to Gabriel a bit whilst he's defended 100 grand from a run 2 years ago.
But do you think it's enough to?
You expect him
would
to
you
have
back
enough
against
firepower.
him?
You would expect him to come through.
Yeah.
You won't back against him.
Next little section, we will see Dimitri Vandenberg, this year's UK Open winner, will face. Who will
Still scarred by that.
It was a rough.
So's everyone.
It was a rough day, that, wasn't it, mate? So Dimitri Vandenberg will definitely play an Irishman. Will he play William O'Connor or Dylan Slevin? Phil.
William O'Connor. Look, Dylan Slevin has a game in him, but I don't trust the action. I don't like it. I think it's very jerky, it's almost too forceful. There's too much pressure and force going through the joints that it's not sustainable for me. So I think William O'Connor comes through this.
I tend to agree. Matt, have we got a clean sweep?
I've not studied this section of the draw as deeply as I have the other ones as of yet, because I haven't got round to that one yet. That's probably going to be Wednesday's video. But when I look at this, I'm looking through and I'm thinking, okay, William O'Connor could win that. Then he could beat Dimitri Vandenberg. Then Schindler, Ridds, yeah, he could win that. Then you look Chizzy, sort of say, William O'Connor could get to the quarter-final.
He certainly could.
I don't diss that at all.
No, he certainly could.
He's a player that I don't think's had his full crowning moment yet.
Agree.
He's better than what he's produced.
Did he have a semi-final in Minehead a couple of years ago?
And he got to the final of the World Cup as well.
Yes.
But I think he could genuinely be a quarter-finalist here. That could be the dark horse surprise of the surprise run of the World Championship. William O'Connor could come through that.
Yeah, we've seen since the UK Open win, we've seen a mixed bag from Dimitri Vandenberg. And we not just in his level. We've seen all sorts of strange goings on the stage, and is he in a position, do we think, Dimitri, where we look at it? Because a few years ago, maybe 2 years ago, we'd have looked at Dimitri in there and thought, oh, Dimitri's a quarter-finalist. We wouldn't really have analysed it too deeply. Does it say something about where his game is that we don't all automatically think, well, it'll be Dimmy against Gary? Do we think is he still so far away from that form that took him to those majors, do you think? Even though we've only seen one this year from him.
I think he is. He puts in a good performance but then doesn't back it up. I don't want to say fluke because that's the wrong word. He was very fortunate to win the UK Open. He took his chances when they were there. He played up in the final. We all saw it. He played the game that we know is in there. Do I see him having a good Alexandra Palace? Not right now, I don't.
I think the problem at the moment is he's just over-preparing.
He's over-analysing everything. He's overthinking everything. Too much prep before his games as well, I think.
Too much time in the back room.
Yeah.
Prepping.
Last one, just to bring to an end this, well, not just this quarter, but the last opening round game of the entire 2025 Paddy Power Darts World Championships. Well, I think everybody knows where I'm going on this. Callum Ridds beats everybody, including William O'Connor or Dimitri Vandenberg. Martin Schindler, we have seen a bit of a breakout from him. We've seen some really good darts. Matt, do we think Martin Schindler can do a bit in this tournament? We know he's got the game.
He's always got the chance, hasn't he, Martin Schindler? He's always got that opportunity. He's a player that's really developed. He's comfortable now on the stage. He's, again, like we say with William O'Connor, like the other player, he's waiting for his moment. Someone's going to come through this section, and it's going to be someone sort of a little bit down the odds. I think who comes through this bottom section comes quite comfortably through the top half of it and sets up a Gary Anderson clash.
Phil, what do we think about this this last one?
Schindler is favourite, but if Callan gets it right, he has an explosive game in there. We've seen spells. The recent Pro Tour, we played some good stuff as well towards the end of the season. So I think he can cause an issue. Is it enough to beat Martin Schindler right now? I don't think so.
To be honest, I'm not sure it's enough to beat Romeo. It's been very impressive in the 2 times we've seen him in. B game needs a lot of work. He'll admit that, and he basically begged me the other day to chop the double 10 segment out because he absolutely hates it. But when he gets it right, Romeo gets it really right, and
Romeo gets it done.
Yeah,
Romeo done?
I was fuming I never used that line. Do you know what I even text them going, if somebody doesn't, when Derek qualifies, if somebody doesn't go 2 multiplied by 10 plus 1, Romeo's done, I'll be livid, and they didn't do it. But when he gets it right, he is superb. That first start follows the second really, really nicely. Plays in a really good rhythm. I think Romeo can cause an upset to Callan. I'm not saying definitely will. Callan's in a lot better form the last couple of weeks and months than he has been for maybe 18 months.
Yeah,
there was time when he walked off the stage earlier this year and he said, can't be doing with this, don't want to be playing darts anymore, my job's doing me in, sort of thing. Like, it was quite emotional social media posts. Different player now, he's had some positive results, but I still think Romeo can get at him. That being said, neither of them get past Martin for me.
So moving on from just taking potential upsets as a topic, who are we having? And I think there's a few to choose from potentially here. Who is the seed most in danger? Matt, I'll come to you first for who you think in this section is the... I think it's a tough one, this one, to narrow it down to one.
It is. I'm going to go with Chizzy.
Same.
Dimitri.
I'm going to go with Dimitri as well. I just think the form's been too up and down, and both William and Dylan have the potential to turn up and chuck some fantastic darts against him. And again, we've discussed a few of them. Matt, you talked a lot about William O'Connor having the potential. You know, if we're going to pick somebody to come from that first round and bash up a couple of seeds and maybe not make a quarter final but go on a bit of a run, is William O'Connor the standout name for you, do you think, in that section of the draw?
If it wasn't for the draw, I'd go with Jeffrey de Graaf.
Okay,
but
yeah.
The fact he's going to run into Gary Anderson changes that, and I've got to go with O'Connor.
Phil?
O'Connor.
Gob, anything different to throw in it there?
Ricky Evans. We said Chisnell's the one in danger. I'm going after Rapid Ricky, despite the fact he was on our billing for tonight. We've not heard from him. Thanks very much, mate. And I'll kick off. I think he loses to Gary in the quarterfinals. I think that bottom half is so open. Ricky loves the palace and comes alive. He's playing beautiful darts this year and is possibly the unluckiest dart player on tour, if you want to give that moniker out for the year. And I think it takes him all the way to a Gary Anderson quarterfinal.
I think we have a really good chance at a Ricky Evans, William O'Connor 4th round match. That I think will be a cracking match, and I think we'll have seen some good darts to get to that point. Final one and final prediction for as we work through sections. Who's winning this? Who's winning the quarter-final, and who do they beat? Matt, as the special guest, I'll come to you first again.
No surprises for me. I'm going Gary Anderson beats Willie O'Connor. A bit of a good run, I think, coming in.
Phil?
O'Connor.
Gary Anderson beats Martin Schindler.
Gob?
Gary beats Ricky.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with Gob, I think. I think Gary Anderson beats Ricky Evans in the quarter-final. Right, folks, that wraps up us talking through section by section. And what we're going to do, we're going to take another quick ad break again, just so we can shuffle some chairs around, get some different people and some additional people on camera, because what we are then going to just quickly do to wrap up the proceedings this evening is we're going to actually talk about who is going to win. Who's going to win the 2025 Paddy Power Darts World Championship. So we're back in a couple of moments to have your and if you are in the chat room as well, get your predictions in, because this is the time where we're actually going to pick a winner. So we want to hear a winner and who do they beat in the final. We'll be discussing that very, very shortly. Welcome back, folks, and we're now at the business end of the predictions for this evening. We've worked through section by section. You know who we all think is going to come through the quarter-finals. We've gathered everybody back together. We've had to stand because the stools don't fit around the table. We've got Chris Mason and Matt Edgar joining us for this final part, where we are going to go through the draw very briefly and pick who we think our semi-finalists, finalist and winner of the 2025 Paddy Power Darts World Championships will be. I think, which way should we walk around? Should we work around the table? We'll start at Gob. We'll go that way and we'll come back towards me, I think. Jack?
Lovely. So my quarterfinals, I had Luke Humphreys beating Stephen Bunting, Luke Littler beating Martin Lukeman, Chris Doby beating Daryl Gurney, and Gary Anderson beating Ricky Evans.
So give us your four semi-finalists.
Humphreys, Littler, Doby, Gary.
I think we're going to.
That's very watchable.
I'm going to put. I'm going to put a prediction in early, folks. A pattern may develop as we go around the table. Phil, 4 semi-finalists.
Humphreys, Rock.
We're not going for the Luke Derby.
Hang on. That's the wrong section. Rock's in section 3.
Oh, sorry, yeah, Luke and Luke semi-final.
The Lukes.
Yeah, sorry, yeah, Luke and Luke, Gary,
Rock and Gary.
Rock and Gary.
Matt?
Luke's, as everyone's probably going to go. I'm almost to that point where... No, I'm not losing faith in it. I'm going Daryl Gurney. He's due.
I don't
He's
mind
due.
it. I don't mind
Yeah, I
it.
don't mind it.
I don't know. Yeah, his kid's there.
Against Gary or
Against Gary.
Chris?
Luke, Gary, Doby.
Yeah, Chris and I are sharing one piece of paper now. Because just before we came on, we sort of like Luke, Gary and Doby. Yeah, Luke, Gary and Doby, that's where we're at. Slightly boring that, wasn't it? Let's move along then, because Luke, if we get Luke against Luke, that's huge. Which Luke then, and we'll go the same way around the table.
I bet we will.
Which Luke, Gob, and who do they play in the final?
Luke Humphreys plays Gary Anderson in the World Championship final.
We never agree.
Until tonight.
It's a harbinger of the apocalypse, this, you know. This could be. You thought that storm was
Is
bad.
everybody just going to go? Yep.
Luke Humphreys plays Gary Anderson.
I'm going to give Littler plays Anderson.
Yeah,
Chris?
I'm going Luke Humphreys against Gary Anderson in the final.
Well, I haven't got it in me, I'm afraid, to not pick Chris Doby.
I admire your loyalty.
Believe me, it's heart, not
Is this
head.
what supporting like a conference football
yeah.
team feels like?
they're
We're going to
gonna
win
be
the FA Cup.
I had a 10-year season ticket at Hartlepool. I know how this dance goes. I know how this dance goes. Luke Littler meets Chris Doby in the final. Gob, last one. It's the big prediction now.
And it will also be the last one that Gary makes, because he will wind down. But he won't win it, and I'll be devastated. Luke Humphreys defends the Paddy Power World Darts Championship.
Phil?
This is real heart versus head, because I've been sucked in, and I believe, and it will hurt when it doesn't happen. But I'm going Gary Anderson as a 3-time world champion.
Wow. Matt?
I think Littler does it. I think he does it, and I think it will be really interesting to see what 2025 brings if that happens, because I think once he takes it, I think the tide turns a little bit. You know, we get the old Man United philosophy then, I think, where people then sort of want him to go lose, which no one likes success, do they? That's
Nope.
the problem.
Not in this country.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that could be a danger. You know, everyone loves the chase, and I feel the chase isn't going to be very long, and I think he's going to do it.
Chris?
No, I think I'm with Barzy. My heart says Anderson. I'd love to see him win it for a 3rd time, but my head says Humphreys will just have a little bit too much. But either way, I wouldn't be surprised if Gary won, because he is playing that well right now. But yeah, I just got a feeling we're going through that same sort of sequence where players are going to win it back to back and then maybe not win it again. Like Gary did, like Adrian Lewis did.
I've been at this position with Gary before, though. You know, when he played Phil in the World Final, I'm like, this might be the last time Phil ever gets there. But I was on Gary so early in that season. He looked brilliant. This is the year he does it. And you sat in that final going, well, Phil might never get her again. And you want that record to go on as much as possible.
Was that before or after the 3 darts fell on the floor at the trophy?
From like the start of December, like when it gets that far, you're like, right, which way do you want it to go, sort of thing. And then Gary's in 3 straight, and to see him get there again will be unbelievable. Same with Taylor against Rob Cross, almost, isn't it? It's like that's the fairy tale ending. Gary's career feels like it might be winding down. Great years, loves winding people up. Is he committed to the full tour and keeping this level up?
In a season where he's set 2 personal best averages, that's why I don't know. It's all down to him.
His record at the Palace, though, is something else.
Yeah, it's remarkable. It is remarkable.
I think that at the final, I'm finally prepared to concede. And I think that Luke Littler will.
And I would, listen, I'd love to see
tiebreak. They'll go on all night.
I'd love to see Littler. It'd be a remarkable story, but but you just got to go on experience and knowledge. And I think because Luke's had such an incredible 18 months, Humphries, well, they both have.
If this was leg play, I think I might shade it Littler, by the way, but because it's set play, I think that Littler's got the ability to just go berserk for 2 sets, but Humphries, it will feel like it's slipping away a little bit for him, but I also feel like that mini comeback we've seen from him in the Grand Prix didn't quite pull it off, but the fact that he managed to put himself in that position where he can fight back, he's been to the well, he's got himself back to that level again, and this time you expect him to kick on with it if it's not going that well.
Set play is that slight bit difference, is where you can be considerably behind in a leg play match and you rattle off 3 in a row. It doesn't feel like it has a big impact on the game, but you get a set on the board. It can be huge just in terms of where that game then stands.
In long course darts, it's the only way the better player can lose. Set play. So, and I've had it happen to me multiple times where you've had the higher average, you've won more legs, you've hit more 180s, and you still lose the match.
Lots of timing, I think, involved, isn't it, in that set play format. So we've talked about the World Championships, folks, and I don't think that the chat room and those watching would forgive me if we didn't, because it's seasonal, start to at least...
Who's going to step into the Premier League?
Put some pieces on the board as to who may be called up to the Sky Sports Exhibition Tour next year. Gents, we've talked an awful lot between us about Gary Anderson. Gary's been quite vocal in where he thinks he's at. What are we thinking for Premier League? Has anyone got any wild names they want to throw in? Somebody they don't...
I don't think Gary Anderson turns... I know he says he'll turn it down. I'd be amazed if he did, because that's commercial suicide. Right? And if he is going to wind down, like a lot of us think he may, it could almost be the perfect way to start winding down.
And he's got a price.
Yeah, absolutely. And if listen, he's got some mega sponsors, he's got a big management team. I don't think maybe, I don't know, I don't have any inside track, but...
Rob Cross talked himself out of it a couple of years ago. I don't think Gary's in the same position to talk himself out of it. Now, whether that means he continues committing to things like the Euro Tour, which he's been back on, it's been brilliant, a little, not all of the Euro Tour,
be a trade-off,
the Pro Tour, but we'll see him wind down on other things if he goes at the Premier League and goes, do you know what, I fancy one more go at this, especially when there's a couple of big names in there, but the rest of it is pretty open.
Yeah, and I think they need him in it. And like you say, it's a price, isn't it?
Everything's got
there's a few players though that in recent, they've become stables of the Premier League, and I'm thinking of a Peter Wright, a Gezi Price. Both of them have talked about the Premier League.
Yeah.
Do we think we see a Premier League next year without them both? Do we think either of them gets in?
I think one might, but only off the back of what we've just spoken about. I've got a Gary Anderson / Peter Wright spot, because I think they want a Scot, and I think that if Gary says no, Peter's also talking about winding down and one more year in the Premier League and giving it one more shot, and I think we've seen him do it with Barney.
Yeah.
If Gary says no, I can see them going, all right, that's going to Peter then.
If Peter Wright hadn't finished back-to-back bottom, then maybe...
I don't think it's any good for him, and I don't think the format's any good for Gezi either.
I mean...
But they still want big names.
Let's go back 12 months ago when I said, look, listen, I know they'll put him in. Does he deserve to be in? maybe. Do I think it's good for him? No. And he had a torrid time, and it didn't do him any favours. I want Adobe because I thought he'd done enough with the Masters win. The numbers.
He was good on debut year as well.
Yeah, and his numbers that season. Peter Wright was outside the top 32 in the numbers. If we looked at all the metrics, Adobe was in the top 5 or something. You know, and that's why I thought it was the right time to put some fresh meat in.
I think there's two problems though. One, you think of the channel flicker. If you're sat at home flicking through a channel and you drop on the Premier League, Darts is on, you need to recognise at least one of the people for the story.
Yep.
The other thing is the people we're looking at potentially rivaling that with, and the people that are on the short list, are people like Mike De Decker, for example, who you'd say, if he goes in there, what is his role in the Premier League? His role is to play the job of the underdog.
Yeah.
So if he's in as the underdog, you can't go, we'll put Ed House in as an underdog, and you'll put this guy in as an underdog, because then you've got 3 underdogs.
You need a landscape, don't you? You need a story.
4 in there on rankings alone, and one of them perhaps isn't the most watchable player in the world, in Rob Cross, who's recently jumped Dave Chisnell into 4th spot. I think that eliminates Chisnell from
I mean, I know you say about that top
completely.
4, but Michael Smith at the moment is in that top 4, but by the time we get round to the Premier League...
Well, the top 4 post-Worlds as it stands right now: Humphreys, Littler, Van Gerwen, Cross, Chisnell, Heta, Clayton, Bunting, Price, Aspinall. Your top 10.
I think Bunting...
I realised that. I was like, yeah, we'll keep going.
I think Bunty might get in.
He's in my 8.
Yeah, I think Bunty might get in.
Do you want to do an 8?
I've got my 8.
You got an 8?
Have you got an 8?
Humphreys, Van Gerwen, Littler and Cross, top 4 in the world. I'm not massively going to change that. De Decker, I think he fits the market. Stephen Bunting, I think he's made himself so much more marketable, even more marketable than he was last year. I've got like Gary Anderson / Peter Wright in there. And at the minute, I do have Damon Heta, who is world number 6. If he goes on a decent run, he might force himself into that top 4. I think he's one from the outsiders that would deserve a shot. I worry about the narrative that Matt was on about a minute ago, about going in and playing the underdog when you've already got a De Decker in there and maybe a Bunting. And because of that, you could possibly put Adobe or someone there next to Heta as well as part of that conversation. But 6 solid: Humphreys, Van Gerwen, Littler, Cross, De Decker, Bunting. I'd go Gary. If they don't go Gary, I could see them doing something with Peter. And then Damon Heta is my 8th, as it stands right now, if we're picking the Premier League tomorrow.
Phil?
Right, again, before anyone has a run at the World's top 4, as we know, Humphreys, Van Gerwen, Littler, Cross. I agree. I've gone to Decker and Bunting. I've gone Johnny Clayton because I don't think they'll leave out the World's 5, 6 and 7. And I think Johnny is the safest pair of hands out of those 3. He's never failed to get to the playoffs. So out of Chisnell, Heta and him, I think he's the safest pair of hands. And I think Aspinall gets in.
Ooh.
Well, that's a big shout.
Yeah, it's a really big shout. Matt.
He's another he battles and I like it, but I think he'd do a year out of it.
He's great. I'm the same.
I think we're looking at this from the angle of who we are, people who will watch every single dart thrown every single week. And we're looking at this from that angle, not looking at it from the angle of we're talking about leaving out Michael Smith and going Price and Peter Wright to replace them with
Marcus was world number 15.
Yeah, a good tournament, some of them. That's it.
And I don't think that's going to happen. You're not going to leave those 3 out and replace them with 3 people that are as well known in that audience. So to us, it makes perfect sense because we're trying to pick out the best tournament for level.
Yeah.
But it's not always done like that.
No.
So you're not going to leave those 3 out. So at least one of those 3 is going to get in. But
is it not a case of at some point that they have to evolve and they can't keep rolling out the same stars? Because we've seen the players get burnt out from not just playing each other, but then World Series have basically been the same 8 players with 1 or 2 dropping in and out. Like, we know they've got their favourites, but...
I agree with Matt. I think you can't do it all at the same time. And every time I try and come up with an 8, I almost have this thing.
10.
So, but I often, the way I try and come up with an 8 is I think I almost set myself a limit of 2 debutants. I don't think just like commercially because of what it is. I think whilst you can make the case for 4, 5, 6 debutants, I think realistically you've got
debutants or is it returners? Because Bunting has played there before, and as has Gary. Like De Decker and Heta, I'm only 2 debutants. Decker's won a major, and
they're mine too.
Heta's
So I've got Humphreys, MVG, Littler, Cross as my top 4, and then I've got De Decker, Anderson, Heta, and Price.
Yeah.
Because I think that one of Wright or Price gets that next go round. And I think if you had to put them next to each other and say, well, you know, who can we put on stage for another year? And
Got to be a big name.
but I think you almost for the sake of Peter Wright, you'd have to pick Price. I think at the minute.
By an extension of this,
I've sort of got a mixture of everybody else's eight really, and it doesn't really pick itself. But when you think about it, it probably does, and I can see it. I'm like Matt. I can see it from a commercial angle, then I can see it from what we want to see because we think we know who the best 8 players in the world are, and what we're trying to do is get the best 8 players in the world, which it should be if it wasn't a commercial entity that relies, like you say, people scanning through and they're going to stop and go, who's he playing? And if you've got, you know, if you actually add who we think probably deserves to be in it, maybe the casual fan would go, I don't know.
Well, we've not mentioned Dimmy, who won the UK Open. We've not mentioned Ed House.
No, who's won the Europeans.
Yeah, like,
just mad, isn't it?
I mean, the fact that I think we're talking about Decker is because the Grand Prix, it carries so much weight, doesn't it? It's such a
Sky event to a Sky event.
It's one of the
Plus,
triple crowns.
the way that he did it, and then he's backed up with like, not unbelievable runs, but he's gone and backed up with ridiculous performances against Littler and Humphreys, etc. That I'd stand out and go, actually, he might have lost here, but you don't mind watching this 12 times in 17 weeks next year.
Yeah, I would have to Decker in, but there's always that gamble, you know, when you say, "Oh, are they ready?" or "Listen, put him in, see what happens." Like, it's not like last year where we had Peter Wright, who was the whipping boy. You know, it didn't really matter, did it? It didn't really affect it.
No, I don't think that's going to happen.
No, I don't.
Someone like
I think it's too good. So yeah, I'm pretty much got a mixture of everybody really. I'd love to see Gary play. I think he'd be great value, and it adds another nationality in the mix. Hetter's great, an Australian. Listen, Simon Whitlock played in it for years, and the rest of them I think pick themselves.
Well, folks, I think the only thing that we're certain about the Premier League at this moment in time is that it's absolutely not certain, and certainly an awful lot of darts over the next month that could have a huge and completely blow apart this discussion about the Premier League. This is pretty much it from the Live Lounge live this evening. It's going to be a really busy month for everybody in darts, but us here at Online Darts especially. We will have absolutely everything covered from Alexandra Palace. Phil's going to be, I think he puts a tent somewhere outside. On the,
no, he's usually in the TalkSport green room.
Yeah, that's it. Phil's going to be hanging around there. Phil's going to talk to every single winner from Alexandra Palace
Not
this
everyone.
year. Well, I said every winner. Phil's talking to every winner, so you will see all of those interviews where you'll always see them on our YouTube channel. Make sure that you are following that along. As well as that, on the website you'll see all sorts of different articles, loads of opinions, just general news stories of things that are going on. We will be doing Fallout bars after every session, so thanks to Paddy Power who are sponsoring us this year for that. You'll see us pretty much every day. Thanks, Chris, again, thank you so much for hosting us here. Matt for joining us as well, and everybody else that came along and joined us. We've been blessed as ever with people who are coming and getting involved in the show. We're hoping that the Live Lounge Live will not be an annual thing anymore. There's a couple of irons in fires where we might even get one. I might barbecue in the summer. We can do something a bit interesting. So thanks, folks, for watching along all day. We haven't managed to get into the comments as much as we'd like because we just had so much to talk about. We'll go back through them, we'll discuss them on the Live Lounge and Fallout bars as ever. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you, Chris, again. Pleasure. Matt, everybody else, and all the boys at Online Darts, thank you for doing this. Jarlath is in the background as well. He's been producing and directing. Thank you for that, mate, and we will see you all next Monday. Thank you very much and good night.
World Darts Championships.